How's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar. Welcome to Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. We are live today with something very special that has been quite a while in the making, and that is the first annual Most Wanted DC Omnibus poll. That's right, these books have never existed, and it is your chance, that's right, you and you in the back, all of you, to vote for these books. So we are going to open up the polls today, and we're going to teach you how you vote and the books that are available, and it's a little bit different than we did the Marvel one. But before I go any further, I could not do this alone. So to my right is the man himself. This is Tigereyes. Who are you?
Everybody, I'm just Tigereyes. I created the Marvel poll. I have nothing to do with the DC other than, I guess, branding purposes, and I'm happy to be here.
I love the way that you shifted yourself to the left of the screen to show that beautiful near mint condition logo. Well placed, sir. Well placed. And the man behind the madness that was mapping, and I don't even know how you're awake, my friend. But everybody, this is Crisis. Who are you?
I'm Crisis with a K. I'm found at crushingcrisis.com, where if you've been paying attention for the past 2 weeks, I've been showing you all of the maps behind all of the poll options. Tigereyes lies. He was in the trenches with me when we were figuring out what this list originally should be a few weeks ago. And I have to say, this is, you heard me say last time that the Marvel poll is like Christmas for me. This reminds me of like people who start getting ready for Halloween in March and April, and they've already got their costume picked out and what they want to do. I've been ready for this the whole time. It's like we have a whole extra holiday. I'm so excited. I've always wanted Tigereyes to do this. I can't believe that I'm doing it with Tigereyes to launch this and have the first annual DC poll. I'm just wilding over here. I'm totally out of control. I hope you're all prepared.
And wired. I love it. I love it. I love that you're so wired. And before we go any further, there are some people behind the scenes that helped a bunch. And I mean a bunch out. And, you know, we have James that's put the thing together, the actual docs where people go and vote. And we have Taylor who put the slideshow together that we'll be showing here in a little bit. Dom, who helped out with the thumbnails and putting some of the mapping together. Lars, who helped map, and I think he's going to be joining us here in a little bit. And last but not least, Brandon, who helped out a ton with the brand, with mapping. And I told Peter, I was like, I think it goes without saying, we got to get him on one of those Map My Blank shows, because he was really good. He brought up a lot of good points, and I think we had a blast doing it. And it wasn't as bad as the Marvel one. It was a lot of fun. But I think we set some rules early on to make it a little bit easier. And then the second annual one, the one that comes out next year, will be probably a little bit bigger than this time around. This time we kind of simplified things to make the voting easier. And I think Peter and I was arguing with my past self with setting the rules. I was like, oh, but I really want that book. Why would I set that rule?
Omar was telling me to add books that past Omar told me no one under any circumstances was allowed to add to the poll.
Yeah.
And I just say, you're creating a paradox. If you're not careful, Wave Rider is going to come for us, Omar. It's going to be the end.
Somebody's been doing a lot of DC reading mentioning Wave Rider. So, yeah, without all those people, this would not have been possible. It was a lot of fun to put together. Everybody worked behind the scenes. Some of those folks are working today. And then well, of course, we'll do a live stream announcing the top 60, just like we do the Marvel one. And just like we did the Marvel one, this will be sent to DC. Whatever they decide to do with the list, look at it, throw it in the trash, whatever, it's up to them. But we did our part, and you all will do your part. All right. Anything else, Peter, before I start the slideshow presentation?
We're about to say it in the slideshow, but because I know you're all thinking it, the link to the poll will come when we're done explaining the options. Lucky for you, there's 500 options, so there's so much time to really, actually almost 600 if I recall correctly. So there's plenty of time to think about what you're excited for, and the poll will be open for about a week and a half. So you don't have to vote as soon as we're done talking. You can let it ruminate, soak in, marinate in your brain a little bit before, or maybe you're one of these people that already knows your top 10, in which case I hope we name all 10 of them over the course of the stream, and you can just fire away as soon as we're done.
Yes, and if we forgot something, we'll look at it again next year, we promise. Okay? Don't vote here in the chat. Vote when the thing is open, when the poll goes open. So Let's see. Let me make sure I'm putting proper screen here. And yeah, we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. All right. Let's kick it off. Most wanted DC Omnibus Poll 2024. We need a champagne bottle, Tigereyes, to like.
Listen, if I knew your address, I'd send you some.
Okay,
It's got a PO box. I wonder if the
remember
champagne
that
bottle would fit into the near mint condition PO box.
All right, let's go ahead and start again. Thank you to Taylor for setting this up. When will voting open? Voting will begin at the end of this live stream. I will put a link in the description of this very video that you're watching right now. I'll let you know when to refresh, and you can go start voting. The link to vote will be in the description of this video. We will also share it in the chat for live viewers. Voting ends Wednesday, May 29th at noon U.S. Eastern Time. So you have a week and a half to make up your mind, you know. And what's in the poll and what's not. Peter, I'll let you tell them the good news and bad news.
Sure. So look, our crack team of researchers, who we'll talk more about in a second, really combed over every DC comic book from Detective Comic Books #1 and even Police Comics all the way up through the last couple of months. And the goal was to get every run character title that has interacted meaningfully with DC continuity. So and additionally, if something was a golden or silver age title that's like maybe or maybe not in continuity, like some of the really important 1960s war books, they're on the poll too. The thing that's not on the poll are Vertigo titles or other imprints that never have interacted meaningfully with DC continuity. So Sandman has repeatedly interacted with DC continuity. Sandman books are absolutely in part in continuity to the DC universe. So is Hellblazer. So is Milestone. There's plenty of things that are. Things that aren't are just the general creator-owned Vertigo titles like Scalped or Transmetropolitan. That has no real connection to DC continuity. Maybe in the future we'll add Vertigo to the poll, but there was just so many chances to miss out on people's favorite thing there when really we wanted to have a core of things that were actually DC comic books. Similarly, Looney Tunes, I know there's Batman Elmer Fudd, that's on the poll, but the vast history of largely uncollected Looney Tune comic books, not on the poll. Scooby-Doo, I know there's a Batman and Scooby-Doo series, but Scooby-Doo Apocalypse, which a lot of people mentioned, is not on the poll. So I'm just setting you up for that heartbreak now. This is about DC continuity. So that is what is on and what's off. There's always the chance that we missed your favorite thing, but we tried real darn hard. And just like with the Marvel poll, there will be a line at the end of the poll to tell us what we have so cruelly forgotten to add that was your favorite. And that way it will be on the poll next year.
Yeah, I think for next year, it'll probably simplify things. Now that we have we've got the backbone built, we can build more on it. So it'll be easier to add things like Transmetropolitan or Vertigo titles. So yeah, if you don't see something like that here, like was it Scooby-Doo or it might have been Transmetropolitan. I'm like, let's add that. And you were like, you said not to. And I'm like, damn it. Why did I make that mistake? Oh, well.
And so folks in the comments, everything you're joking about in there right now, I guarantee we had at least 10-minute discussion about. I saw the joke, no Jerry Lewis Omnibus. You don't even know the discussion that the Jerry Lewis Omnibus created in the background. So I promise we thought about all of these things. I absolutely promise.
He'll be ready. He'll be ready next year to get 10 votes. Don't worry. Okay. And moving on. So here are the titles and how Taylor was kind enough to group it. Him and Peter worked together. And Peter, tell them a little bit more about why it's grouped like this.
Well, look, the groups ultimately don't matter on the poll. The poll is just a beautiful, beautiful alphabetical list. But we remember on the Marvel stream, there was kind of this frantic, like, what about my favorite, this, that? This is how many things we're going to go through on this stream. We're going to be here into possibly June. I don't know. So if your favorite, I know somebody said, what about Detective Comics before Batman? We have a whole group of DC like miscellaneous titles and anthologies that will be in there. So we have a lot of content to get through. It's not going to be strictly alphabetical. We're going to do alphabetical by title and by character, and then take care of those big buckets of like DC heroes, DC teams, DC anthologies at the end of the stream. But on the poll itself, it will just be alphabetical by title, and you can just go nuts.
Batman versus Predator when? You know what's really interesting about that, Nikki? Now it would be a DC versus Marvel omnibus. Instead of Batman versus Predator. At one time, it would have been Dark Horse, right? But now it definitely is up to DC versus Marvel. Lars just showed up. Who are you? Why the hell are you late?
Yes. Sorry, Lars Pearson, Norwegian assassin, joining you late. I am editor-in-chief and publisher of Mad Norwegian Press, also formerly of Wizard Magazine. Sorry, it's graduation season here in Iowa, as in every state in the union, so I was delayed at a graduation party. I just want to say, Peter, congratulations. I know you put in so much hard work on this, and Tigereyes and everyone else. I'm so glad you've survived the experience. And Peter, if you just feel the need to fall over dead, know that you've served your community really well.
Okay. All right. Then I'll team up with Catwoman. Yikes. Let's special oh, Peter, I didn't even know this was part of the slide. I was a rambling idiot earlier on. Go ahead.
Well, look, Omar already touched on this, but there's so many people that contributed. We had a team of over a dozen. If you are not already a member of the Near Mint community via Patreon, I got to experience that for the last month on Discord, and it's such a great group of people. Like, if you think the chats of these live shows are fun, that's who's on the Discord. I just have to specifically shout out Brandon. His DC brain is the way that I am with X-Men.
Yeah.
It was such a joy to get to learn about all of the little intricate corners of DC from him. DomofX, who is like constant positivity. James, who has dealt with so much BS for me in email over the last month, bless him. And also one of the most organized people I've ever met. Larry's Library, who got me some awesome deep cuts from the 70s really early in this process. Lars, I am contractually obligated to thank. Next, Imaginaut, #1 Animaniac, who's also on YouTube as DBZ All-Star, who contributed so many great maps. Ross WB, who came up with some clutch maps. Shalom Warburg, who saved me when I insisted that there could not possibly be enough Rose and Thorn material to make an omnibus. They said, no, you're wrong, and some other stuff too. And of course, Taylor, who put together these very slides and also wrote along through all of that. Other people commented, contributed, but these are folks that really chipped in a ton of books that would be missing from the poll otherwise.
Which James? I don't know if I can say his last name. I never have. He knows who he is. Is it? I don't know if he's in the chat right now. It's BF. Is it BF Nut? I think is his.
Oh yeah, I didn't know if he. I didn't know what his.
I never know unless they tell me, or unless they, their usernames like Michael Emmond, right, or Bob OK House over here. Yeah, not James Abel, but James is always a thank you for James. I had to get lost sword and sorcery stuff in there.
I almost forgot, Larry. It was like 48 hours ago, and I was like, oh crap, Larry sent me a second email.
There were a few people on that list where, and I won't name names, who like their attention to minutiae was really impressive and shocking all at the same time. And some of them admitted, I've thought about this too much. But yeah, they were great. They were really good.
James Howlett. I don't remember the last time.
Howlett.
Wolverine has gone
That's
by
Wolverine.
that name.
That's Wolverine's name, Howlett. Yeah.
It's not that James. No, it's not that James. Where is that James? Birds of Prey Omnibus. Look at Amadeus Gomez, right to the point. Where are we? All right. Let's see what the next slide is. Aquaman. All right. Let's go ahead and start this. Whew. Hold on to your butts, everybody. All right. Peter, I'll let you take it from the top, and then we can talk about what we need to talk about.
All right, well, and every character is somebody's favorite, so everybody chime in. But for most of the single characters, we've got them in order of their continuity here. So it's easy for you to kind of just scan down and see what exists. Aquaman, of course, starred in the Golden Age. 2 volumes would knock that out. He's previously had a Silver Age omnibus that was solicited and canceled. That's on here. He makes a pretty hard cut into the Bronze Age where there's an obvious break. You could start voting for Bronze Age with that. Obviously, we've got the Peter David omnibus coming out very soon. Or did it just come out last week? But there's actually plenty of Aquaman material right before the Peter David omnibus in post-crisis that would actually fill a whole book. Then there's the stuff right after Peter David. Then there's the relaunch in 2003 and the second half of that with Arthur Curry. Then there is New 52 Aquaman that hasn't been collected yet. Only about a half of that has been collected. Then there's the Rebirth by Dan Abnett. Would it be 2 volumes? I don't know, but we have one on here. Then there's Rebirth by DeConnick, another fantastic omnibus-sized run. And then what I didn't realize, but that came to light, I think, from Brandon as we were mapping, is there's actually enough post-DeConnick material for another Aquaman omnibus that was largely written by Brandon Thomas and Chuck Brown. So this covers every Aquaman comic there is. The thing is, with Silver Age, you will find that we did not list Silver Age Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4. We only ever went deep if there was obviously 2 volumes that it was obvious to map.
Otherwise, it would have gone insane.
Well, and the vote is being split quite a lot regardless. So,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, if you look at Aquaman alone here, you have over 10 choices. And
Well,
you only get 10
yeah.
votes. Here.
This is almost indicative of DC as a whole because the publishing history is quite extensive, far beyond Marvel, and there's just, you know, immense tracts of it that need to be paved over, as it were. There's not that many series like Doom Patrol where you feel like you're tantalizingly close to getting it all in an omnibus or what have you.
This is the real question from my buddy Roberto Rodriguez. I just want to know, when is Peter or Omar making a Krakoa reading order, specifically Fall of X era? You know, Peter and I have decided after the polls are over, we're going to bring back Matt My X. So maybe Krakoa is something we need to do first because everybody seems to be wanting to know about that era for some reason. And I have no idea how in the hell Peter talks and types and talks to the chat at the same time. What? How is that possible? So that's Aquaman. Batgirl.
Batgirl.
So we have Barbara Gordon Oracle. Yes, I mapped that one. I mapped that one. Yeah. All me, baby. No, I'm just kidding. This was a team effort. Batgirl Cassandra Cain, volumes 1 and 2. Batgirl Stephanie Brown. Batgirl Barbara Gordon, the Rebirth Omnibus by Larson Scott and Castellucci. And Batgirls by Clunan and Conrad. So that is pretty much all of Batgirl, because I mean DC has already released the Bronze Age Batgirl stuff too. So that's something
quite comprehensive. I discovered through working on this.
So I mean, in here is everybody's favorite Batgirl, Cassandra Cain. I don't have to say it more than one time, right?
That gets my vote.
That is absolutely my favorite Batgirl.
That is great stuff.
And that stuff has been, unfortunately, has never been collected all the way through.
No,
it started twice, and oh my gosh. Josh is saying not seeing the mapping on the slide. Peter, you want to chime in on that?
Sure. So, folks, we did not want to overwhelm you by turning this into a Map My DC that's 600 books long, but rest assured, we actually did that. If you are questioning, like, oh, does that have my favorite issue in it or not? Guess what? On the top of the poll, there's a link to a master post on Crushing Crisis that has links to the mapping for everything on the poll. So if you want to get deep and you want to make sure it has the exact issues you want, the mapping is all done speculatively because we don't know what's really going to be in these imaginary books, nor do we want, if we did leave out your one favorite issue, for that to prevent you from voting for it. We used it as a proof of concept. If there was enough issues to fit into a book, that was a proof of concept it could exist. If there were too many issues to fit into a book, that was a proof of concept that it should maybe be 2 books. And so, like Cassandra Cain, I didn't know a damn thing about that. I'm not a DC person. But over the course of this, when we looked at all the crossover issues and tie-ins and major guest appearances, we realized it has to be 2 books. So if you really want to get that deep, we're not going to take you there in this stream. But when we do the results, we will talk about the perspective mapping for every one of the top 50 or 60, however many results we present.
So
it's been an odyssey getting to the end of this. Yes.
Cosmic Odyssey.
A cosmic odyssey.
Are you sending DC this or the map? No, we are just sending the books. They can map it however they want to. If they
But our entire team is available to consult DC. Get in touch.
Certainly. at the very best rates, which I presume would be free, but yes.
Batman. Here we go. Peter, you want to go over this?
Oh, Lord. Got to get ready for the Batman stream later this week. Okay. So Batman Golden Age is totally covered in an omnibus, but we put one little Easter egg right at the top here, which is an expanded Black Casebook that has all the stuff from the original Black Casebook, plus issues that it didn't have that clearly influenced Morrison, all the way up to the Tales of the Demon and the Demon Trilogy. You could pretend it is called Prelude to Morrison if such a thing like that tickles your fancy. Then, of course, we pick up, this is an example, of course, Batman's very well covered in omnibus. So we pick up with the next Silver Age book. Feel free to vote for it. The next Bronze Age book, feel free to vote for it. But because Batman has so many comics, we actually created a new line just for fun, the Batman the 1980s omnibus that would start in 1980, so you don't just have to rely on the Bronze Age line to get there. If you love your 1980s Batman, go ahead and vote. We also have Batman the graphic novels, because so many of his graphic novels are not in strict continuity, but they're clearly kind of in continuity, so we could have a whole collection of those perhaps if you vote. Then we have, I think, what a lot of people are interested in, the Batman post-crisis omnibus. We put in brackets there, AK KA, Capes Crusader, and Dark Knight Detective, because we know a lot of people have bought those collected editions. And this would start pretty much in the same places that new Batman Year 1 and Year 2 compendium would start, but in omnibus. So wouldn't it be better? Then we do have some individual Batman titles, even though we know they go through all the crossover stuff. Legends of the Dark Knight was all creator-driven single stories. And so that would actually be really easy to collect. The first volume literally does not have crossovers in it. So it would be a perfect first volume and a very good read. Shadow of the Bat, similarly, there is enough there that you could actually collect all of it without even needing to recollect Nightfall stuff without dealing with crossover issues. But then, of course, we don't have an omnibus that starts right after Nightfall, starting with Troika. So that is the Nightfall Aftermath omnibus. Then there's Batman Chronicles, which is sort of like a Batman Unlimited multiple stories book. Again, if you want that all in one place, you could vote for it. Then we get into the Batman line-wide stuff. And we spent a lot of time, and people know Batman better than me, kind of went through and said, do these chunks work? And let me tell you, we have covered every possible Batman issue that could be covered. So there's Contagion Legacy. Then there's Contagion Legacy Aftermath, which is effectively road to No Man's Land. And then let's continue, Omar.
Yes, sir.
So then we have a creator-centric Brubaker omnibus that would just collect Brubaker stuff and also just Gotham Knights. But then we have more total coverage of the line. Batman New Gotham, which would cover everything to meet the Murderer Fugitive omnibus that's been announced on the other side. We have a Road to War Games and then War Games itself. We have the 1 year later that happens after Infinite Crisis. And then if you want it all in one place, you could have a volume 1 of Batman Confidential. Might be a little too big for one omnibus, or maybe not. DC has gone over 60 issues per book recently. Then we realized that we also need some like Morrison companions, because the Morrison run skips around so much that no one book is collected all the way through. So that 1 year later, you could also think of as a Morrison companion volume 1 that kind of recollects stuff that the Dini omnibus skipped or stuff that's parallel to that. Similarly, there's a Batman by Morrison Omnibus Companion 2 that would be all the Dick Grayson stuff. And then also there would be, I think it's on the next slide, there is maybe also volume 3. Yeah. So then there's also a Bruce Wayne Returns, which is that last little pre-Flashpoint chunk that you could think of if you want about Morrison Companion Volume 3. So our goal was that everything Batman could be collected and you could still enjoy your Morrison omnibuses. Then we get into New 52. Clearly, we've already got all the Scott Snyder stuff, but there could be a Snyder companion that has his Gates of Gotham, his All-Star Batman, all the stuff that's not in the Snyder Capullo omnibuses. There's also Detective Comics in 2011, partly by, I think, Tony Daniels, a writer that has never been collected in omnibus. Also another series, Batman the Dark Knight. Then everybody wants their Tom King. Well, I know there's a lot of different mapping on this. This is how we broke it down, possibly controversial. We split the actual run into 2 halves. It's perfect size for 2 omnibuses. And then we did a companion that has all of the other King stories that have to do with it. Killing Time, Batman Catwoman, some of which is out of continuity, but a beautiful companion book. But then there's more. James Tynion had his run on Batman that introduced Punchline, had Joker War. Then there's Detective Comics by Mariko Tamaki, which was ran all through the Shadow of the Bat weekly series. Then there's Batman Urban Legends, which is a anthology book that had a lot of really fun stories in it that launched other series. And then, because we know it's Batman and people will ask, we did something we don't usually do, which is mapped existing, currently running runs. So if you're really dying to get a first omnibus by Batman by Chip Zdarsky or Ram V, guess what? You can vote for them right now. Congratulations.
Poor Williamson. He's squeezing in anywhere. Where did we put Williamson?
You know, that one's not on here explicitly because it's such a brief slice of run, but you absolutely could say that it's in the Mariko Tamaki, or you could say that it maybe belongs in the Williamson Robin omnibus. So that one we left a little bit up to the imagination because it's not like a traditional like 30 issue run.
I kind of like it in the Mariko Tamaki book.
Yeah, that Abyss run and arc was actually really, really good, but it's sort of like is of a piece with that period, and certainly more so than Zdarsky or Remvi.
Woo! Batman non-continuity. So in this particular slide, we have nothing. Batman by Frank Miller, Batman the Animated Series, which is a continuation, and it's Gotham Adventures, Volume 1. And Volume 2, Batman the Animated Series, The Adventures Continue. And then the Batman Elseworlds, which we know they're doing a reprint of the trade paperbacks. Batman One Day, The Complete Saga, which has been released in a box set, but no omnibus yet. And did we fight over Joker, Killing Joke being collected in that or not? I can't remember. I remember talking to somebody about it. How many times can we collect the Killing Joke? Every time. every time. It's a big selling point. And then Batman the White Knight, which, you know, Sean Murphy, it's probably going to happen anyway. Should have had Batman have his own separate poll. That would have gone bad.
But, you know, people said that in the Marvel poll too, like, oh, we should have an X-Men poll, we should have a Spider-Man poll, and altogether, I think what were they like 40 or 50% of all results? Like, we know people out there love Batman, and not only that, DC does a great job of collecting Batman and Omnibus outside of major creator runs and major like line-wide events. So this is your chance to send a message. Like, get to it, DC. We could be having like X-Men style omnibuses of just everything Batman. You could be dropping 2 or 3 a year. The market could sustain it. So I don't think it's a bad thing if there's a lot of Batman on the poll. Like, some DC is such a book market oriented publisher, and Lars might have thoughts on this, but I think like sometimes they forget that fans are hungry for that in between stuff too.
Yeah, no, I looking over this list, that's exactly true, because they prioritize like by creator name or event, and that means stuff like the one that's always shocking for me is that Legends of the Dark Knight is left on the table. Legends of the Dark Knight, which has not really been collected well ever.
No.
And you just think, well, that one would surely sell quite a lot, but it's just sitting around.
Did we put Batman Beyond somewhere else, Peter?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I think Tigereyes handled the whole Batman Beyond section, so he should do that slide.
Oh, let him. The Bat Family. Okay, so we have...
There we go, baby.
Azrael.
In fact, you did a lot of these, Tigereyes. You should do this one.
Here, go ahead, Tigereyes. Do your thing.
So you have Azrael by Nicieza. Then Azrael is split into 2 volumes, Agent of the Batman, Batman Beyond by Beecham, Batman Beyond by Jurgens, Batman Beyond Classic series. I think her name was Hillary, I can't think of her last name, sorry. Batman Family, The Bronze Age, I Am Batman by Ridley, Batman Streets of Gotham, Batman New 52, and Batwoman by Andreyko and Bennett.
Dude, I completely forgot about that Beecham series, the Batman Beyond one. So I'm glad you handled that. That's awesome.
Much like Pepperidge Farm, Tigereyes remembers.
And Batwoman by Andreyko and Bennett, that would be the follow-up to the Greg Rucka and J.H. Williams run.
It would. Oh, I should have put that bracket.
Technically volume 2. It's okay. You're good.
I have a particular soft spot for Azrael by Denny O'Neil and Barry Kitson, but I know that I might be one of 10 people who feel that way. But
no, you'd be surprised how many people really love that character.
Really good.
He went back to his costume when it kicked off that series, and then of course later on he got that ridiculous like Superman costume with a mask on.
Kitson's art is just so elegant, and Denny's writing is just so thoughtful. But oh god, it's great stuff. And
it was hard to follow up a character like that, that was so unlike in the Nightfall era. Go ahead, Tigereyes.
Sure. Features Kate Gotham by Williamson, and I'm not even going to try that last name. Gotham Academy. Huntress Helena Bertolini. Joker by James Tinian and Rosenberg. Poison Ivy by G. Willow Wilson. Poison Ivy Omnibus.
Shut up, Bar!
Red Hood and the Outlaws Volume 2, Red Hood Outlaw, the Rebirth Omnibus, and then Talon, the New 52 Omnibus.
Talon was actually one that was solicited as an omnibus, and then they took it out of the catalog. So who knows? Maybe one day that will come back. And yes, the Gotham Academy, I agree. That book is so good.
I want to point out too, if you could just go back to that for 1 second. This is why we put the years on, because some people think of things in different ways, and we've discovered on the Marvel poll, like there would be a book that was obviously what somebody wanted, but they couldn't just tell from the title. So every single title has a year range, and it absolutely always corresponds to what the map could contain, unless there's like one crazy outlier. Like I think Madame Xanadu had one 1981 issue, and the rest of it was the Matt Wagner series in 2009. We didn't say it started in 1981, but like hopefully if you don't, like Lars was saying about Azrael, even if we didn't put the creator names on it, hopefully you can tell by the year range that it's going to collect the thing that you want it to collect.
Sure.
I know that James is joking right now, but I don't know, maybe he's not. But vote for whatever you want to. That's the whole point of this. Don't
you will not be denied choices. Let's just put it that way.
Don't cave into like peer pressure. Vote for however you want, just like the Marvel stuff.
And book are the book that you would actually want to buy, right? Like that's the whole point of
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Tell DC that there's a market. So for
Certainly.
these, look, we don't have to say all the villain names. We went through all the Arkham.
No,
trades, and we
you
went through
gotta say.
Clayface, Joker, Killer, Croc, Man, Batman, Mr. Freeze, Penguin. Oh, he's already changed the slide. Anyway, they're all on there. So, and we did not map these as excruciatingly as the other ones, although there is a really good map for
I'm
Riddler.
wasting my time with
No, yours is in there. I'm just saying not every one of them.
Oh, okay.
We know. There's stuff out there. Yeah.
You forgot Kite Man.
I was gonna say Manhunter. Okay.
Oh my gosh. You
what
go
if
ahead and find all of those Kite Man issues that they're going to fill the omnibus, Lars. We'll wait right here because you can probably get through them all.
Brandon had fun mapping, what was it, Solomon Grundy, and then at the end of the day, we were like, no.
It's in there. It's not about
Oh, is it?
Yes.
I can't
I
believe you
don't
put
mess
it in
around
there.
with Brandon recommendations. If Brandon tells me it's an omnibus, I say yes, sir, and then it goes on the list.
I mean, Batman villains is a thing, though. I mean, they've already had the Joker omnibus, so we know that these are popular characters.
And there's
All
a
right.
Penguin TV show coming out.
Birds of Prey. So who wants to do this one?
We know you want it, y'all, because Birds of Prey is real darn popular and Gail Simone is white hot right now. So the thing about this is some of these books would be really big. Would they just be one volume or not? With Birds of Prey, we're like, we know people think about it in these 3 chunks. Let's just stick with the chunks. So we have a Black Canary, the early years volume omnibus, if you just love your solo Black Canary. Then we have a Black Canary post-crisis omnibus, because guess what? She's got enough material before Birds of Prey that there would be a really cool book, some Action Comics Weekly stuff in there. She had 2 series of her own. Then we have the 3 big chunks of original flavor Birds of Prey. The original Chuck Dixon chunk, the Gail Simone chunk, and then the end run, which is Bedard, and then Simone comes back for the other series. I know you're all about to raise your hands and say, what about that really cool run by the indie creators like Terry Moore that came between Dixon and Simone? We left that a little bit up to your imagination because they're both big books. It could be at the end of the Dixon book. It could be at the beginning of the Simone book. If you really want to see the indie creators run, probably vote for both of those books. Then there's Birds of Prey and New 52. There's Black Canary and New 52. And then finally Birds of Prey and Batgirl in Rebirth. No, we did not put an omnibus in for Kelly Thompson's brand new Eisner nominated Birds of Prey because it's only 9 issues deep. So we don't know if it's going to be omnibus sized yet, or if eventually we will need a DC Universe by Kelly Thompson omnibus.
There's that tone. I was waiting for it. No, we did not put that in there, you silly bastards. Why would you even recommend that?
I would never talk to the Minties like that. Never.
Huntress was in the Bat Family slide. It's in there. And oh man, I'm sure some of these are coming though. I hope.
What do you think? Birds of Prey by Simone will happen at some point. It's just,
Well, she said Wonder Woman and Secret Six, right? So anything's possible. Catwoman. So we have the early years Golden and Silver Age omnis because she hasn't had any. She's only had 1 omnibus, and that's the Ed Brubaker run. But we decided to put Jim Balance era here, and with a volume 2. The Will Pfeiffer era is the one that follows the East of West Omni. It's her dealings with Black Mask. And then the New 52 omnibus, and then the Rebirth era. That's the stuff with Joelle Jones and Ram B. And that is Catwoman in a nutshell. Deathstroke. We've already had an announcement of a volume 1. I'm hoping that we just made someone's day when I said that, and they're like, why'd you put volume 2 in there? Why not a volume 1? Because it's already been officially announced. It's in the solicits. And then the New 52 omnibus, finishing out that particular run, and Higgins and Jordan, and then the Ed Brisson and Dexter Soy run from 2021.
And there is already 1 New 52 omnibus. It's after that one. So the new that's from 2013 to 2015 or 16. So this actually would precede that.
Why are you canceling me? Ted Cord Blue Beetle's not on the list. Omar's canceled. Get in line.
Judges.
Oh, Lars is going to talk about Blue Beetle. He's going to talk about Blue Beetle so hard, harder than anyone has ever talked about Blue Beetle.
It was funny in the course of this where you did find yourself focusing on things. It's like, I can't believe I'm thinking about this much. But
it's so
fun. Once you start, you can't stop.
I don't know if anybody's literally ever paid that much attention to how Golden Age Blue Beetle should be collected, which somebody ought to. But Lars was like, I'm going to solve this problem.
Dr. Fate. This is another one of there's definitely certain characters that remind me of Lars, and Dr. Fate is up there.
What?
Yeah, Dr.
Because he should be wearing a helmet over.
Yeah, I was just saying you don't want to see my face.
That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
Okay.
Might be even worse. There you go, Lars. What is this nonsense here? The Dr. Fate nonsense.
Dr. Fate, The Golden Age of Earth 2. That's odd phrase. Dr. Fate by DeMatteis and Messner Loebs, right? Dr. Fate. Oh, Jared Stevens, right? And Dr. Fate, the New 52 Omnibus. Why
is Jared Stevens? Is that the run with just Fate when he was known as Fate?
Yes, yeah, it's called just Fate. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that wasn't that great.
I have to explain that first one. We got a little bit cute with a couple of titles. I tried not to be too cute. But the thing with Dr. Fate is that he starts in the Golden Age. He's with JSA and everybody, but then he has a bunch of his own stories as an Earth 2 character with JSA crossing over into Earth 1 in the 1970s and early 1980s. So it's the same Dr. Fate. There's no like Silver Age, Bronze Age divide. It's all that same Dr. Fate. So that is one of the few DC characters where that is the case.
I have a soft DeMatteis and Messner Loebs is an odd matchup. Just it's the same run, but they're very different. I have a real soft spot for the DeMatteis run. I think it's really quite wonderful, but yeah, never really been collected.
And I mess with Dr. Fate so hard.
A lot of Dr. Fate hasn't been collected.
Yeah.
I
don't know why I'm being compared to Dr. Fate. I am a Scorpio, and I'm told Scorpios are mysterious. So maybe I'm just giving off mysterious Dr. Fate vibes.
That might be it. Maybe it's your well-spoken words that come out of your mouth. Wow, we've had a lot of Doom Patrol collected. That's really awesome. Good.
How simple it is.
So just two. Who are these people, Lars?
Who are these people?
Oh, you are definitely Doom Patrol material.
I am. Doom Patrol by John R. Cootie, 2001 2003. Doom Patrol by Keith Giffen, 2009 to 2011. I think I'm right in saying that Keith gave an interview in which he said that he'd kind of been waiting a very long time in his career to write Doom Patrol, and then finally he gets on Doom Patrol, and the series didn't last that long. It was one of those they canned right before the New 52 reboot. But yeah, both these are pretty great. And that would now. Why did we leave Gerard way out? Is this because the deluxe edition is out?
Somebody wasn't paying attention. Peter, go ahead.
Lies. So
yeah, no. There are reasons to leave.
Yeah, there was a lot of debate on if there should be a reissue on the poll of the Gerard Way that would have Milk Wars in it. Cooler heads or more intelligent heads prevailed on the near mint condition. Discord said, why are you inviting people to throw away their vote to add one trade worth of material to an existing deluxe?
Yes.
Why don't we actually just put an option on the poll for all of Young Animal that would include all of that material, and then people could have Milk Wars in context with the other books?
Yeah.
So there's...
There's
just some isolated cases where there's an existing deluxe edition where we're like, let's not invite Madness to add one or two issues onto the existing deluxe edition.
No, and I mean, like, I own the Gerard Way deluxe edition, and that is for me, that's perfectly fine. As you say.
Oh, you'd buy it again for Milk Wars.
I refuse to comment on that one.
Firestorm, another character that has not been collected.
Shamefully neglected. This you think would be great for DC's Finest if they would start doing Firestorm for that one.
It would be.
Omnibuses would be great too.
So there's four different, or really three runs here. There's the Fury of Firestorm. That's the 70s run that takes you into the 80s. And then volume 2 would take you into the 90s. And then the 2000, that was a really short-lived series, but they tried in 2004 to 2006.
Yeah, Firestorm's publishing history is so choppy that it becomes shocking to remember that the original, or the main run, ran 100 issues.
Yeah.
I mean, holy cats.
And keep in mind, it was a different character, though, when it started in 2004.
I mean,
because it was after Infinite Crisis.
Yeah.
And we only got one trade paperback, if I'm not... Is that right, Tigereyes? We only got one trade paperback of that Firestorm, and then they canceled, like, the trades?
No idea, but sure.
You're on the internet, Tigereyes. You say, yes, I do believe that is right, Omar.
I love the Fury of Firestorm series. I thought on the whole that was really great. So
all I know about him is he had a legit Kenner Super Friends toy, and based on that, I would vote for some of these books.
And then the New 52 Omnibus, another series that launched the New 52 and didn't make it that long.
No, it didn't.
And again, the Firestorm from the early aughts is different than the 80s Firestorm, and also the New 52 Firestorm.
Yeah, he's gone through
Different characters.
Yeah.
Their head's on fire. What more do you want?
Who wants to tackle
Oh
the
God.
Flash?
Okay. All right.
Lars, this is you, right?
Lars is more of a Jay Garrick type of guy. I'll let him tackle the Jay
I
Garrick.
actually am more of a Jay Garrick type of guy. I don't know if you were just winging that out there, but it's true.
Go ahead, Lars.
All right, we got the Golden Age Flash, Jay Garrick, which has been in the archives, but he deserves his own omnibus. Flash Bronze Age omnibus, Flash by William Messner Loebs. Now because Volume 1 has been solicited, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Then there's Impulse, which I think was shockingly solicited and then withdrawn. Is that right?
Volume 2 was solicited. It was past the Humberto Ramos era. It was a weird mapping. It was like during the Ethan Van Sciver and Todd DeZago run.
Okay.
For some reason was solicited as an omnibus, and then they said, well, it was the weirdest reason. Oh, the scans are so bad we can't make an omnibus out of this. That was the reasoning why that omnibus was canceled.
Interesting. Flash by Mark Waid, Volume 3. You think that one's sure to happen at some point. Flash Fastest Man Alive, or this is the Jeff Johns companion, basically. Flash by Robert Vendetti, if I'm saying it right. Flash Rebirth of Wally West. Flash by Joshua Williamson, Volume 2. Volume 1's already out, right? And then Flash Infinite Frontier Omnibus by Jeremy Adams. Yeah. I mean, Flash simultaneously that's been collected quite a bit, and you need a lot more. Yeah.
Well, honestly, the Golden Age would be, a few Omnis. The Bronze Age would be a few Omnis.
Yeah.
They've already kicked off the Silver Age. How many Silver Age Omnis are there? Anybody got those?
It's complete. It's done. I don't know the number, but it literally goes up to the first Bronze Age issue.
It's 3 or 4. I can't remember. Yeah.
Okay.
Flash might be the best covered single DC hero. I was shocked. I kept thinking, oh, I must have missed something. But like the one that we kind of scraped together from scraps and scraps is that Fastest Man Alive book, which people kept pointing out, oh, there's all this stuff after or like near the end of John's that never got into an omnibus. There's a point where Impulse is the Flash, and then there's a point where like the title resumes after it's been on break for a while. All of that would be in that book, which actually would just be beautiful on the shelf next to John's. I've really come around to it now that people have explained it to me.
Really quick, this is somebody new to the channel and not sure how this works, but I'm assuming that's what they were trying to say. But they need to hurry up and reprint the Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 1 and Wolvie 1. I think Wolvie will come, honestly. We got a Volume 2 reprint out of nowhere. I know it's a DC stream, but that's okay. You're new to the channel, so you didn't know exactly how this works. Lars is still trying to figure out how this works, by the way.
I am.
Life in general, not how the channel works.
No, absolutely. I come in here to worry about this sort of stuff rather than real problems. Absolutely.
The stuff with Bart was terrible.
It's not the most popular.
DC also agreed because in issue 12, something horrible happened.
Yes. They finished that in a rather dramatic way.
Green Arrow.
Okay.
Tigereyes.
Well, I can talk about this one.
Okay. Peter, call dibs. Sorry, Peter. No talking for you. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead, Peter.
Okay, so I really love Green Arrow, both as a character and like academically how he's moved through the comics. So first of all, in the Golden Age, there's Green Arrow and the Seven Soldiers of Victory, where he was like part of the Seven Soldiers of Victory, not a solo book. And there's actually the perfect amount of that for an omnibus. I got really into it as I researched it more and more. Then there's the proper Green Arrow Golden Age, which he's already got one omnibus, but there's enough to continue quite some time from there. Then there would be a Silver Age omnibus that comes before the Green Arrow Green Lantern omnibus. We tried to give you a lot of wayfaring finders in those brackets. So if there's brackets, it's to help you know, like, what does this attach to or go with, right? Then he comes out of the Green Arrow Green Lantern and he pretty much co-stars with Black Canary all the way until Crisis. So we could have probably multiple volumes of that, and it would be both of them co-headlining the book. Then, of course, we've got the amazing Grell Run, one of my votes that made it onto the DC Evergreen list. But after that, Green Arrow is Connor Hawke, and largely by Chuck Dixon. And that would actually probably need 2 volumes. We tried to squeeze it in, but there's just no way. So we put volume 1 and on, but it's a lot of issues. Then there's Green Arrow by Kevin Smith and Brad Meltzer. There's Green Arrow by Judd Winnick, a major, major favorite. Then there's Green Arrow and Black Canary story, which we pretty much said would start right at the wedding. But again, your mileage may vary. That's why we put dates on there. If you know the date of the run that you are a fan of, you know what to vote for. And then, of course, there's the New 52 Omnibus, which I feel like has been suppressed because the Lemire material in the middle of that run just keeps getting collected over and over. But it's a whole run, and the rest of it's never been an oversize. And then also the Rebirth Omnibus by Ben Percy, which would be a big honker. But DC has showed that they will go to 60 issues or beyond for a Rebirth Omnibus, since those books double shipped and they're so big. The Deathstroke by Priest Omnibus, I think, is like 65 issues. So this stuff is possible. And we were very reverent of how long the books are for each era. So for Golden Age, Bronze Age, and Silver Age, DC will never go over 850 pages. And we obeyed that rule religiously as we were trying to figure out if it breaks into one book or two. Whereas in the modern era, DC for Rebirth absolutely will go to 60 issues. And we religiously obeyed that as well.
Peter.
Yes. He's coming, baby. Any solo hero that has less than 3 books of their own for omnibuses, you're going to see at the end in the DC solo slides. They go on and on and on.
I'll take a little Green Lantern.
Yeah, baby.
All right, Green Lantern by Morrison and Sharp, which is the new run. And then we have the classic stuff, the Golden Age with Alan Scott before Hal Jordan, which they've already collected a lot of that stuff in the Silver Age. We threw in Guy Gardner, Reborn and Warrior in there from the 90s. And that's when he went through that change and became an alien, a weapon. Pretty crazy era. And then Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps. It's a following up on the Hard Traveling Heroes Omni. The Robert Venditti, people forget how long he stayed on the book. He was on the book for about 5 years, but that would be enough for 2 volumes separating the New 52 era and the Rebirth era. Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, Emerald Dawn Volume 1. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this, just like we did the Marvel stream, like these are, dream books. Whether DC decides to map it because of a problematic creator, it's up to them, like whether they decide to do it or not.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, it was a bunch of people working together and still regarded as one of the greatest jumping on points for the character of Hal Jordan. So it's in here. Then we also have John Stewart, which again, same issue as Emerald Dawn in Mosaic. And then Kyle Rayner and the New Guardians, and then Kyle Rayner Volume 1, which we know that DC has taken an interest in because they've given us trades, they've given us fat trades, they've given us a compendium. Maybe one day. And then Jemison and Thorne, the 2019 to 2022 era, the Rebirth Omnibus Volume 1 by Humphreys. Do we have a Green Lantern family? Did you put it in? I can't.
Yeah, it's coming.
Okay. And then the other Lantern. So this is where it gets really fun.
Yeah.
So the Dark Stars, which is the 90s, right? That's where Donna Troy and a lot of characters went because nobody knew what to do with the character. The Green Lantern Corps, which is the New 52, but we also added a few other things in there as well. Those Left Behind, that's the only one that I got funny with on the title, because those are the orphan stories that were not collected in the omnibus, neither the Jeff Johns nor the Peter Tomasi Green Lantern Corps Omnis. And if you look at the mapping when you go to Crushing Crisis, like it's my dream book because it's all these issues that were left behind plus new things.
Omar went off.
I
went really
fudge off. I went off. I was like, these are the things you don't leave behind. Like there was no reason to leave them behind. But anyway, I don't work for DC nor Marvel Comics, but them Larfleeze, of course we have to have the Orange Lantern. That would be a little skinny one.
That was the point, is the texts were flying and we were trying to figure this out. When someone brought up Larfleeze, I'm like, oh my god, it's getting real now. Okay.
Yeah.
We renamed that book so many times. That's like the 4th name. Green Lantern, Larfleeze, the Orange Lantern, who is Red Lantern adjacent, but definitely
Can you imagine the
part of the Green Lantern family.
That would be awesome. You have orange, you have green, and then you have red. And yellow with Sinestro. Yeah, Sinestro with the Cullen Bunn stuff. That stuff is stellar, and it would be just one omnibus. Then we also did Legion and Rebels. Because during this era, it did tie more into the and Lars, you can probably speak of this. It did tie more into the Green Lantern mythos than it did Legion because they were trying to make the book sell.
You're right. Eventually, I think when it starts out, it's pretty strongly a Legion spinoff. But eventually, as you say, it becomes more of a Green Lantern one.
Omega Men, the classic omnibus in here as well. And then Rebels, which is the Tony Bedard series. We had a couple of trades, but I don't think it was ever finished, collected in trades. And then last but not least is the Red Lanterns, which would make an amazing omnibus, but I'm just playing favorites. Okay. Harley Quinn.
Oh, boy.
Tigereyes. Are you a Harley Quinn guy? Is that you?
Go. Let's go.
All right. This is all you.
All right. So you have Harley Quinn, the early years by Denny, Ketzel, and Dodson, followed up by Harley Quinn, the Rebirth Omnibus by Thierry and Humphreys, and then finally Harley Quinn by Stephanie Phillips.
There we go. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
All right. Who wants to tackle Hawkman? He
I will
is
do it
a
because
headache
I'm learning.
of continuity.
Brandon is tutoring me on Hawkman. I have a private tutor.
You have a private tutor. Okay. Good luck. Good journey. Go for it, Peter.
Sure. And then I'm going to have a Green Lantern comment after this. So Hawkman starts in the Golden Age, right? Makes sense. It's actually way more than one omnibus of material. So we start there. Then there is Silver Age Hawkman. It's a really interesting publishing history. He has his own book. Then he has a team up book with the Atom. And then because of the way that it breaks, it would be too big for one DC Silver Age omnibus. So that's why we put volume 1 and on, because it would have to at least be 2. Then we come into the early 80s, just before Crisis, but kind of still in continuity to post-Crisis, which is largely by Tony Isabella. Lars, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that has Shadow War in it. Hawkman Shadow War. Lars says yes.
I think yes.
So then we have Hawk World, not Hawk Word, but unfortunately the poll says that now, so you're all voting for Hawk Word. And then we have Hawkman by Ostrander and Western Lobes, which is the bulk of the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Then this one's interesting. There's that Hawkman by Johns and a little bit James Robinson omnibus, and it just stops in the middle of a run. And then actually very popularly, that run picks up with Palmiotti Gray and Simonson after that, and it actually briefly turns into a Hawk Girl title. This book would have all of that. Then there's the New 52 Hawkman, which is called Savage Hawkman, only about 20 issues, not really any crossovers except for one issue, if I recall correctly. So that's one tidy omnibus. And then there's a book that I love, Hawkman by Robert Venditti. Now, you will notice that we don't explicitly have a book that has Death of Hawkman and Hawkman Found in here. Personally, I think that that would probably go in the Venditti book because it's post-Rebirth. But if you think that, no, the Venditti book should start clean, then it's up to your imagination if you want that to be in the New 52 omnibus. Again, our maps are not dictation of what must be in this book. We just tried to prove that the books could exist.
There's something really true and sad about what Roberto Rodriguez is saying. Robert Venditti fixed Hawkman continuity. So if that is true, if Robert Venditti fixed Hawkman continuity, that means it took 30 years to fix.
I think that's the problem. It's his legend of the continuity being screwed up will far exceed the solution if there was.
Oh my gosh! Okay, we'll go back to Harley Quinn. Sorry, Bar. Hold on a second.
The Venditti run had a lot of art by Brian Hitch, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, solely right there. I mean,
what did we miss on the Harley Quinn slide? Did we not talk about it?
No, we talked about it. Bar just wanted us to talk about it longer. Or there's over 100 slides, my friend.
Okay, Harley Quinn, the early years, good job. Tigereyes got you covered. Then the Rebirth, then Stephanie Phillips. Bob's your uncle. I'm not sure what else you wanted. That was it. It's just been so well collected.
So the comment I want to make here, because it's actually been really interested in the chat, and I've been chatting with the Trickster 2012 in the chat this whole time. I hope you weren't born in 2012 because you're way too young for some of these comics. So Green Lantern, that Bronze Age run keeps going into the 80s. It becomes Green Lantern Core. There's so much good stuff. We looked at different places to break it. Should we start like an 80s Green Lantern omnibus? And it just felt like no matter what we would try to do, we would be putting our thumb on the scale really, really hard to say like, oh, DC should do this in a way that didn't make sense in the same way that the Batman breakup did. So you just start from Bronze Age. Pour your votes into Green Lantern Bronze Age that follows Hard Traveling Heroes. That would cover the beginning of the omnibus line that would take Green Lantern all the way into the Crisis Zone. So maybe next year we should throw on a Green Lantern Core in the 80s, but it just seemed like there wasn't a clear enough break point to do it this time around.
Maybe by creator?
Yeah,
Now
and
we can-
Trickster has apparently this encyclopedic knowledge of all the creators. He's like, where's this creator lineup? Where's this creator lineup? I'm like, these are very good points. There is a field at the end of the poll that says you were missing this book, and I think that's a great way to approach that run, honestly.
Good. Hellblazer. So we have the Jamie Delano mapping, and we decided to put a volume 2 there, and then decided to put them by different creators because Hellblazer is one of those series that was broken down by different creators, and each of the creators had a really long run. The tricky part is going to be mapping around the very first Hellblazer omnibus, which is of course the Garth Ennis omnibus, because Garth Ennis collects the beginning of Garth Ennis's run, or that era, and then when he came back for like 6 issues. So that's going to be the fun part, and that's why we decided to put it like by different creators. I'm pointing at my screen like people can see me.
DC's approach has been oddly split here because with the trade paperbacks, they were relentless about getting out the entire 300 issue run. Clearly, they didn't think there was resistance to that. But with the omnibuses, they keep going creator heavy, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that they started and they are continued doing it. I don't know if it means that they are determined to continue the whole line in that way. I don't know.
Yeah. But as you say, it does break down fairly well.
Volume 3 would be the Garth Ennis era.
Yeah.
I thought Ennis was a little later, not 3. Ennis started in 41.
41, 42, yeah, 41.
Yeah, but see, and the thing is like, they skipped issue 51 in that omnibus, so we would have to put it into another. Like, I take this role way too seriously. Like, I actually work for DC Comics. I'm like, look, they missed it here. We can put it over here.
If they were to get out all of these creator-centric Hellblazers, the fury about the 1 or 2 issues that are missing would be a lot less. So we'll just go with that.
Go ahead, Peter. You were in the middle of something.
I'm just gonna say in the chat that a lot of those, like, how does it fit around that very strangely mapped Ennis omnibus would probably be in Delano volume 2, because Delano writes right before it. He doesn't write issue 51, but then also Delano writes issue 84, which is the next one after that. So I think it makes sense that it would actually pick up all the stuff that fell out of the Ennis.
And I guess we'll just have to wait and see exactly how it's mapped, and then we can have Hellblazer, Those Left Behind omnibus.
We might have to. I mean, he's got a lot of miniseries and stuff, which the paperback line integrated almost perfectly. I think it left out one OGN of the entire multi-year run, but who knows? Maybe they'll put those in a companion for the omnibuses.
Oh, Justice League. Oh, yeah. Good luck to your Knicks if that's your team, or if it's the other team. Good luck to that team. Does anyone recommend the Cy Spurrier Hellblazer?
Yes.
They're really great. I'm reading all of them. They're really great.
It's like reading old Hellblazer, not New 52 Hellblazer, and I hope that makes sense when I say that. All right. Anybody want to take dibs on Justice League?
I'll do it. Justice League of America, the Bronze Age omnibus. Look, DC is on Justice League. They're on the case. So actually, they've got Silver Age covered. There's tons of Bronze Age. There's not a whole lot more to do. Technically, this is like, we could have called it the 1980s. Maybe I was stupid by calling it Bronze Age. But we already have the Detroit omnibus, which is like settled kind of in the middle of the 80s. So all we have to do is get there, which is only going to take like another, I think, 2 books. So then there's Justice League International Volume 4. There's some question as to whether DC would keep rolling with this because the first 3 are such a complete set. Omar just did an overview video on the channel. You should go watch it, of the 3rd one. But those books are so brilliant. They collect all of the Justice League titles in one coherent order. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if DC kept doing that? That's what we've always wanted for things like Batman and Spider-Man. They've got it happening. So just go to Volume 4. But maybe they don't. So just as a backup to keep in your back pocket, we also put some of the individual books on here as well, including Justice League Task Force and Extreme Justice, which people lobbied very hard should also include Living Assault Weapons, which doesn't have anything to do with the run, but does have more Charlton characters in it who do star in the run. So that's why we've appended it there. We're always looking to make sure nothing's orphaned. Then we get one of the few like truly controversial things on the poll, and we spent a lot of time talking about this. How should DC recollect JLA 1997? So people might want 2 different things, and guess what? They're both here. So if you want the no skips version of the omnibus that would just collect straight through Grant Morrison, not skipping any of those little onesie twosie issues, you can vote for that. Or if you think that there should just be a Grant Morrison companion that then rolls into Wade, then there's that on here as well. And I mapped that so explicitly on a Justice League post on Crushing Crisis. So if you want to dig into the weeds, the Near Mint community really, really helped me on that one, and no stone was left unturned. But either way, eventually you get to Justice League by Joe Kelly and also some Denny O'Neil. And then you get to the Road to Infinite Crisis, which is written by a ton of different people, including Chris Claremont, which I had no idea was a thing.
Yeah.
And then you have arrived at Infinite Crisis. So with the Justice League books, I would say go by the year ranges. That will tell you what Justice League you are definitively voting for.
With somebody was saying that Joe Kelly could have the music stuff, but with Joe Kelly, you would honestly need what was it, the 12-issue maxi series, the Justice League Dark? Like you would have to have that, and then Action Comics and the way that it's mapped, it almost becomes too big. And then here's the other ones.
So then we're going to move on from Infinite Crisis. JLA Classified starts a little bit before Infinite Crisis, but it's mostly after. Then there's Justice League of America in 2 hunks, one by Meltzer and McDuffie, the other one by Robinson. Then there's this kind of weird right pre-crisis area, Justice League Generation Lost, which actually is enough for its own book. A lot of you might be saying, where's Justice League Cry for Justice? Well, don't worry. We found so many different books that it could fit in that we didn't even mention it, but you can assume that it's going to be in some Green Arrow or Justice League book from 2010. Then there is the New 52 period. This is me just saying, like, dude, do something with it. There's Justice League United International and Americas, because there's all those side series. Together, they add up to like 54, 55 issues. So DC could do it all in one book. Would they? I don't know. But if you all voted for it, they might. So then there's Justice League, the Rebirth Omnibus Volume 1. That is just Hitch. And at the very end of Hitch, there's a run of Priest. And it kind of all fits together really nicely, perfect size. That would probably also have Justice League versus Suicide Squad in it. Then there's Justice League of America, which spins out of Justice League versus Suicide Squad, entirely by Steve Orlando, including all of the Rebirth one-shots that led to that. They did one for each member of the team. Should that also have Justice League Suicide Squad in it? Maybe. It's up to your imagination. Then there's the stuff that came out of No Justice. So 3 series launched out of that. One of them is Justice League Dark. We already have that omnibus. The second one is Justice League Odyssey by Williamson and Abnett, a very fun, mind-bending space
Beautiful
Justice
art.
League that has Cyborg, great art, Will Conrad, who I love, Jessica Cruz, Cyborg, and Azrael, a very strange Justice League team. And then finally, we get back to the main title in 2018, which is the Rebirth Volume 2, but it's the 2018 series by Snyder and Tinian. And then finally, after that, there's a whole slew of writers that chipped in a few arcs each, Venditti, Spurrier, Williamson, and Bendis, to take us through Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Wow.
Yes, to go back to that, I don't know how the hell.
Yeah, it was Claremont Byrne.
Breathing.
Yeah.
Yes, Claremont wrote issues of Justice JLA with John Byrne, but it was almost like a setup for John Byrne's Doom Patrol. And I think actually it is collected in that Doom Patrol omnibus, isn't it, Lars?
That I don't know.
Oh, I thought you.
I don't own that one. Yeah.
How do you not? You own all the Doom Patrols, I thought.
No, well, yeah, how should I put this delicately? That, for me, is the line beyond which John Byrne's art has gone off the boil, and I just couldn't bring myself to pay money for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't. That's the one that you don't have, then.
That's the one that I don't have. Yeah.
Okay. So if anybody has it, I think it's. I don't even know what it's called. I think it's just Doom Patrol by John Byrne.
Doom Patrol by John Byrne. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think it does have the those issues of JLA. Like JLA, it's only like 5 issues, like 94 to. It's right before 100.
Yeah. And also his writing was just a little bit too flat on that. I mean, because Doom Patrol tradition is a crazy book, and he didn't quite seem to have noticed. So,
which takes us to the other Justice team at DC Comics, and that is Justice Society of America. And starting it off with these wonderful, very retcon series, much like Invaders at Marvel Comics, All-Star Squadron by Roy Thomas. Pretty much took the formula of Invaders and took it to DC and said, hey, these are the characters from the Golden Age. 2 volumes, The Infinity Incorporated by Roy Thomas, then JSA Classified. Some of that stuff has been collected in trade paperbacks, like the Power Girl stuff, but there's a lot of good stories in those. Then JSA Omnibus Volume 4, completing the Justice Society of America, and then through the New 52, and including the unfinished JSA All-Stars, which had artwork by Freddie Williams, who went on to do like Ninja Turtles and Batman. And then JSA All-Star Comics, the Golden Age Omnibus. Did you map that one, Lars? Was that you?
No, I don't think that was me.
Maybe it was Brandon. I can't remember.
No, I
who
think
did
this
that.
might all be me because I've got a killer JSA guide to toot my own horn for a second.
All right, well, toot it. Tell me about it.
So I'm sorry, which one are you asking about?
The Justice Society, the Golden Age, the All-Star Comics.
Just in case.
How was that one?
Oh,
back?
yeah. So, I mean, Justice Society was effectively the proto Justice League, but it wasn't called the League until 1960 after it launched out of Brave and the Bold. And so that Justice Society, this is like an infinite time loop trying to talk about this side, because it's the Justice Society that started in the 1940s and had their own kind of World War II era adventures, then became the Earth 2 Justice Society that interacted with the Justice League in that final book, The Crisis on Multiple Earths. But then they were so popular that they got their own books. So then we get into All-Star Squadron by Roy Thomas, and then so it's kind of just like a never-ending circle, because then we get to post-crisis where DC is creating new alternate versions of Justice Society adventures from the 1940s, because they can't have Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman anymore because of crisis changes, which brings us to Young All-Stars. But now we're actually back to continuity the same as the 1940 continuity of All-Star Comics, only with a different cast. So you could just read these in an endless circle for the rest of your lives.
Yes. Some of these have been really neglected. I mean, Infinity Incorporated, they put a hideously overpriced thin volume 1 in hardcover. Then they solicited an Infinity Incorporated by Todd McFarlane and then withdrew that one. That and All-Star Squadron, there's a lot that could be done there.
And the Infinity, that Infinity Incorporated, that's the stuff that has like the JSA, like kids and the lineage, right? Because I know a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Neil Gaiman was a big fan of, and then he borrowed for Sandman.
Yeah, he did.
And I love how they like gradually just post-crisis it. Like at first it was a pre-crisis book, and then they just keep going and they just gradually forget about all of the inconvenient stuff that they would have remembered. Is beautiful.
Yeah, the fact that Lyda Hall and Silver Scarab show up in Sandman because of Infinity Incorporated really is always surprising. I had to keep
it's like tying up a lot of loose ends.
Yeah, it is. I was watching the Sandman TV show and I was reminding myself, well, wait a minute, this is because what was done in Infinity Incorporated. Yeah. Oh boy, Legion of Superheroes.
I don't know any
Lars,
Legion
this is your moment.
I know. Finally, it's arrived.
All right, you nerd. What is this?
Superboy Legion of Superheroes, the Bronze Age Omnibus, Volume 1. Again, that is out in archives, but an omnibus would be nice. Legion of Superheroes by Jerry Conway, Volumes 1 and 2. Includes all Before the Darkness, which is a horribly misnamed series. And then I think the thing that really everyone's wanting, Legion of Superheroes by Paul Levitz, Volume 1 and Volume 2, which is the crux of the 1980s Baxter series. A little misleading name there in that Paul Levitz actually wrote quite a bit before this. But if that's the most expedient name, then it's fine. It's really surprising that 80s stuff has not been collected.
The poor man.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you?
Oh, I love that. Where's Jess? Jess will be doing the results with Peter and I on I don't know when, a Sunday. We've got it in some kind of calendar already. All right, keep going there.
Oh, so Legion of Superheroes and the Legionnaires, that is the spin-off series of the 90s. It was just called Legionnaires. Legion of Superheroes by Abnett and Lanning, Volumes 1 and 2. They had a good long run on the book. Then
before Guardians of the Galaxy, mind you.
Before Guardians of the Galaxy. Then Mark Waid comes along and has an interesting, it's called the 3-boot because it's rebooted again. And Barry Kitson does that. It could also be called Mark Waid and Barry Kitson. That would be work pretty well as well. The Return to Legion by Johns Robinson. Then there's the other reboot spinning out of Legion of Three Worlds. Then there's the New 52 Omnibus, and then they just give up publishing the silly thing. Weirdly for years, and then Brian Michael Bendis comes along and mangles it horribly for 3 years. So yeah,
he tried.
I had high hopes for it because they hadn't published Legion in like 6 years, and I'm like, okay, you're gonna need a named creator on the book. I understand that. Get it going again, and if anyone could do it, give it a shot. Brian Michael Bendis. Ooh, it was bad.
It just wasn't about anything. Like, as somebody who was so excited to finally like have an entry point into Legion, I'm not trying to discourage anybody from voting on anything, but I was like so there. I made a Legion guide just so I would understand. I was there on day one. I'm like, this isn't about anything. Nobody even
No.
there's no characters. They all
No,
just
no,
stand
no.
in a crowd and
The-
then
the-
do a
the
Greek
problem was-
chorus.
It crushingly misunderstood. It thought that the appeal in the Legion was having this enormous cast, which frankly it isn't. It's the stories you can tell with that world and with that cast. And Brian Michael Bendis, like they threw a bunch of characters, like Brian Michael Bendis didn't have a story. What story was being told here? I have no idea. Because when you look at when the Legion was great, it's like that story was great, that story was great, that story was great. Bendis didn't have one.
And when you say they're great, it's really interesting because I think most people could just say the Great Darkness Saga is the great Legion of superhero stories because they haven't done a good job collecting Legion that a lot of people know about any of these stories.
Well, actually, I think for a lot of people, because again, that 80s series was really popular and they've done a couple of soft covers, but like there's the huge arc with the Legion of Supervillains. The Universo project is really great. The Death of Superboy, storyline is really great. There's some great stuff in there that, the reprinting on it has been dreadful. I'm struggling to recall if the Death of Superboy issues have ever been collected, which would be bizarre. What
were you saying, Tigereyes?
I was going to say, I love Abnett and Lanning's run. I thought it was very world building.
Sure.
That's no spoilers, but that's definitely one I'm voting for in my 10. It's that I've always wanted that. I have the 2 trade paperbacks, and I always wish DC had done more.
Yeah.
I will say, out of these, I think Mark Waid's and Paul Levitt's do an amazing job as like a good entry point to the league.
Yeah, they really do.
Martian Manhunter. Tigereyes, you want to take this one, buddy?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. There you go, buddy.
Martian Manhunter, the Silver Age, Volume 1. Martian Manhunter by Ostrander. And then Martian Manhunter by Lieberman, Williams, and Orlando.
And those are not that many issues from 2007 to 2020. Those are just different creators because we had to put it all together into one book. The Ostrander stuff, though, and I think it was Tom Mandrake on artwork, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Phenomenal stuff. The Milestone era.
Okay, all right.
Classic stuff here.
This is pretty straightforward because it's pretty much just I was trying to reach my
Don't tell your secrets, Peter. Don't tell your secrets.
It's pretty much just these as omnibuses. Spoilers. But if you don't just want this as omnibuses, which is what that first one would be, I have volume 1 in my hand. So this would literally be that first one. You might just prefer them by series. And so we broke out all of the major series. We didn't go totally wild and like collect if there was something that just briefly ran, but these are every one of the major Milestone series that are represented in these compendiums. So you have a choice. Do you want it all in one as omnibuses or do you want them per series?
You know that those Milestone compendiums remind me of like the DomofX anthologies, like the way they would have mapped those in a bigger format with story arcs. How many compendiums do we have left?
1.
Oh wait, they're doing it all together. There's a couple more series they haven't started yet. I think. Granted, it didn't last very long, right? Like by the time it was 96, 97, a lot of the series were being canceled. So have you mapped that far out, Peter? Is it 2 or 3 more for the Milestone?
I thought there was only 1 more. I could be mistaken.
Oh, one more?
My number 1 expertise, but
I thought it was at least 2. Everything by John.
Could be 2. I could very well be wrong.
Fact. Nightwing. I'll take this one.
Okay.
Yeah, baby.
I'm looking at my custom ones down there, man. Nightwing by Chuck Dixon. We know there'd be a couple of these at least. We do have a compendium available. But I would honestly start it off with like the Alfred one shot, and then the Ties That Bind miniseries by Dennis O'Neil, and then the Devin Grayson era, and then the weird era of Nightwing when it was Bruce Jones and Marv Wolfman and Peter Tomasi coming into the book and writing just short story arcs in there. And then it was relaunched in the New 52, which surprisingly that era has all been collected in omnibus format with Nightwing, the Prince of Gotham. Is it Prince of Gotham? I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
And the Grayson Omnibus. And we have enough for a Rebirth Omnibus, 2 of those,
Several.
and then of course the Tom Taylor. But the Tom Taylor, like I almost feel like that would be just like a New Dawn Omnibus or something like that, you know. But we put it here just in chronological order. And yes, rest in peace to Dwayne McDuffie, a freaking brilliant creator that was gone way too soon, and wrote just about every episode of Justice League Unlimited, but 4, I think. I'd love to see his name on Omnis, honestly. I'd love to see his name on his Fantastic Four and the JLA, or Justice League, I guess. Outsiders. This one's fun.
Yeah.
You want to do this one, Peter?
Sure. So this is one that we like kept realizing there was more to talk about as we kept going on. So there's the original Batman and the Outsiders, where Batman quits the Justice League in a huff, and he's like, oh, these people are already in the middle of a war. They'll be my friends, and doing extra legal shenanigans outside of the United States. But then Batman breaks up with them too, because that's all that Batman ever does, break up with people and break their hearts. And so then the Outsiders go on into their own run with Mike Barr, which is actually 2 different runs, which I didn't catch until very late in the preparation of this. There's the 1985 run, then there's a gap, and then they come back in the 90s, also written by Mike Barr, and that would fit all into one omnibus. Yeah. Then there is the 2003 run by Judd Winnick, and this is where things get like a little kooky, because that run is like 50 issues, and then it has those 5 audition one-shots at the end of it, and it's like, do they fit the best with that run, or do they fit the best with the next run? You don't have to decide. Just vote for the run that you really want and assume it'll be there. Because then there's Batman and the Outsiders, which also kind of, if I'm not mistaken, is like Nightwing and the Outsiders as well is in the mix here, but it was actually called Batman and the Outsiders. It was. And then there's a Rebirth run of Batman and the Outsiders, which is actually pretty brief, and it's by Brian Hill. So this would cover every Outsiders comic book ever.
Yeah, that's great. That's good mapping. I've actually got customs of the Outsiders by Judd Winnick that leads into Batman and the Outsiders. I love that stuff. I thought about this, I'll be honest, about the early years of Dick Grayson, but it's all going to be collected in the Teen Titans Omnibus, because he didn't have solo series. It wasn't like, it was like he was in a team book or a team up book or hanging out with Batman. Everything about Dick Grayson was taking place just about in those Teen Titan comics. Because I thought about it, because I did it with like Oracle. I was like, okay, surely I can make an Oracle omnibus. And that was a lot of fun, because she was jumping around from series to series. Whereas Nightwing Dick Grayson stuck around just in the Teen Titans. But who knows? I'm a Dick Grayson fan. I could probably double dip myself. Hey, Omar, don't forget Nightwing 1 million. Nobody forgets that. That's in the that will be in the Chuck Dixon omnibus. Wow, Warren's actually excited about something I like. Yeah, Outsiders. Heck yeah, that's interesting. Did anybody check on Hell? Has it frozen over? There's a Golden Age Dick Grayson Robin series. There is, yes. They have been doing the Robins collections.
And let me tell you, I went through some of those Golden Age issues and counted page by page to figure out how many books we would need to cover it.
God.
Bob the Goo, we do. How are you, Carl? Hope you've been doing well, brother. Robin. So who wants to take Robin, and we can discuss this one?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I just mentioned, which is that there is Golden Age Robin. There's a lot of Golden Age Robin. It's him solo. It is not cherry picking him with Batman. He had his own solo feature, and it would need multiple books to get through. Then we kind of have everything for a while, because there's those really good Bronze Age Robin omnibuses that take us all the way into the 80s. There's no Jason Todd solo material really, and all of that would be in a Batman omnibus. So then we would pick up from Tim Drake effectively, and that Tim Drake run goes on and on and on and on. So we just said volume 1, because there's no real place to like break it and tell you, oh, this is where there's going to be like a creator run or a volume 2 or something, until Tim Drake becomes Red Robin in 2009. So that's a nice tidy run by Yost and Cieza all by itself. And then a lot of the Robin after that is Robin and Batman books, which are all actually really well collected. So the next like burst of individual Robin, there's a 2015 series that has a deluxe hardcover, and there's nothing more to really put in there. So we did not try to omnibize it. So the next thing really, Robin, is Damian Wayne's solo title in 2021 by Joshua Williamson, which also has all of the Lazarus Island stuff and also the Shadow War crossover, which is actually a pretty fun series that I really enjoyed. It gives him his own supporting cast, which I think he's always really needed. And
This,
also, I should mention, clearly all the Super Sun stuff is collected really well as well. So that's why there's only a few books on this slide.
You know, maybe next year we could have fun. It could be a challenge to map something like Robin, Jason Todd. In my head, you know, that's just the way my brain's working. I'm like, how exactly would I map that? What would be that is not already in a Batman book? Because there were some Teen Titan issues, maybe. But Tim Drake, some people are asking about Robin 2 and Tom Lyle. Yes, Tim Drake Volume 1 would have all of that particular era of Robin. He had 3 miniseries before he had an ongoing series. And this is, again, just Tim Drake. And then the ongoing series was by Chuck Dixon and Tom Grumet, who came out of Teen Titans. Or no, he was on Superboy for a while, and then he did Robin. And we did have a small, like, it was in the catalog. It wasn't marked as an omnibus, but it was the Robin by Bill Willingham, which would have been the tail end of that Robin series. And it had like 1,300 pages. So everybody, well, me, I assume everybody else got excited. Yes, we're getting a Robin omnibus, Tim Drake, baby. And then they pulled it out of the catalog and it never came out. Like, Tom Lyle, loved Tom Lyle's art. Yeah, Tom Lyle, man, it was sad what ended up happening to him and, you know, his family and stuff. He was gone way too soon. Lyle was my professor back in college. I met him a couple of times and then he got sick. And then when he got sick, he was at Marvel Comics and they held a spot for him for a long time. God, what was it? He was on a book. I can't even remember. He was supposed to be working on a miniseries. Yeah. I love that we act like the most recent Tim Drake series didn't happen.
Oh, you know, I didn't do that intentionally, but I might have done that.
Is there enough material?
No, surely it was. No, I guess I skipped. It was only 12 issues. And then there was like the Pride stuff that came right before. We have a little list of abandoned series because if something couldn't get past 15 issues, we're like, that's not really an omnibus. And I think that was the case with that Tim Drake book. Also, wrong artist. Totally wrong artist for that book. Megan Fitzpatrick, great writer. I like Riley Rossmo and other stuff, but it just wasn't the right artist for Tim Drake. I'll talk about this one.
Yes.
Okay, folks. So look, we have the Neil Gaiman Sandman omnibuses. That is the thing. We have the Lucifer omnibuses. That is the thing. We now have the Dead Boy Detectives omnibuses, and we have Books of Magic omnibuses. We could push so much farther to have all of this stuff collected, and it would be a beautiful bookshelf. Let's talk about it. There's enough Sandman Mystery Theater to get 2 books. One of them is a compendium, which I could reach right here. That could easily be omnibusized.
Yeah.
Then we have a Sandman Universe Companion, which is also known as Sandman Presents. There are a lot of Sandman Presents series other than Dead Boys Detectives off to the side of Sandman. There's some for some other members of the Endless. There's stuff for Corinthian. None of that's enough to have Critical Mass to be its own book, but it would be a great companion book. There's also Black Orchid, which had its own ongoing series after the initial 3-issue Neil Gaiman series at the beginning. So that could be a book all its own. That is a typo. Clearly, it shouldn't be 1998 to 1995. It's 1988. Use your senses when we've made mistakes. Then there's the Sandman Universe stuff that launched in 2018, including Books of Magic by Burnett, Howard, and Fowler, The House of Whispers by Nella Hopkinson and Dan Waters. And then there is Lucifer, also from that line by Dan Waters, which was a wild ride. A lot of those books didn't have their final issues released until they hit trade paperback. So a lot of them didn't even exist as single issues, which is true for the last arc of that Lucifer book. Big fave of mine. There's also a Lucifer book that predates that was part of Rebirth, but it wasn't part of Rebirth because it was not in Rebirth continuity. That's the Holly Black book. But now we come to the 3 that I want really bad and might be my vote to the poll, which is there is no comprehensive collection of The Dreaming from 1996 to 2001. Hopefully DC has something in the works, maybe just a compendium for when the second season of Sandman hits. It's crazy that we don't have it collected.
It's a really good series. I think there was 1 trade paperback and that was it.
Yeah.
And it was 1 trade paperback and there were 2 printings, and the second printing I think added 1 extra issue and that was it. We never got a volume 2.
Yeah. And then also, I mean, if you want to read some good comic books, The Dreaming by Spurrier and then by G. Willow Wilson, which together make a brilliant run. I mean, many of these months, this was the best comic book coming out, period, full stop, full industry. And this was back when I was reading 60% of all comic books, and it was just that good month after month. Highly, highly recommended, even if you don't know it well enough to vote for it.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
Sandman Mystery Theater.
Yeah, no, Sandman Mystery Theater readers are among the most. There's a word I'm not sure I'm allowed to use, but it ends with teased. In the entire
sand teased, you can say sand teased.
I can say sand teased. They started doing the softcover collections, and then they didn't finish those. Then they started doing the softcover book collections, and they didn't finish those. Now they give us Compendium number 1, and there's the crickets on volume number 2. It's like, Jesus Christ, just finish out the run of Sandman Mystery Theater. So
and
that
it's
would be
such a good story, but I think
so good.
But I know at least some of my viewers, not all, not most, but some of my viewers passed on it because it wasn't a hardcover.
Sure.
Was there a series that just focused on Cain and Abel?
Well,
that's the House of Mystery and House of Secrets.
That's the Bronze Age,
and it really doesn't focus on them. They were just kind of like your hosts, like, hey, welcome to the House of Mystery. In this story, somebody does something stupid, and they're going to get punished for it.
Cain and Abel are kind of fascinating, the degree to which their profile's been raised by being in Sandman.
Yes,
absolutely. Even when I was watching the TV show, I was having to explain to people, now Cain and Abel actually had a good long run in the comics before this, but yeah.
Shazam!
Okay.
And I'll say my Sandman guide, which is public and available to everybody, has everything. Like, if you want to see what all those, like, House of Horror hosted by Cain, hosted by Abel, where Destiny originally came from and Neil Gaiman plucked him from, I literally have researched every single issue and explained it.
I love that about you. Shazam's going by Shazam, huh? Not Captain Marvel. Oh yeah. I mean, there's no way.
No.
They haven't called him Captain Marvel. I don't think inside the comic they even call him Captain Marvel anymore.
No,
that
that bell is not getting unrung. Yeah.
Hardcovers and leaflets. Yes, dozens of us. This is going to be hard to vote because there's just so much that hasn't been printed.
Yeah.
Elvira, I think, is now with Dynamite, and those stories can only be collected by them. Team Leaflet. That's right, baby.
Saved by Omar.
I think that's the last, because I remember talking to Vincent about that, who I invited to be part of the mapping, by the way. He's a great guy and he's just super busy. All right.
Major favorite of mine. I love her. She's a drag queen.
Shazam! Yeah. Who wants to tackle Captain Marvel?
So Shazam in the Golden Age, of course, was not actually owned by DC. It was owned by Fawcett. And there's so much, like, we could have just kept saying, then there's a Shazam Jr. and then there's a Shazam family. But it's one of those things where, like, we rather would put one and have that be a lightning rod for a lot of votes and actually see it do well, rather than, like, infinitely splinter it into a bunch of books that people might not understand or vote for. But really interestingly, DC sued them for infringement because Shazam Captain Marvel at the time was too close to Superman. Fawcett stopped publishing comics, and then DC said, oh, but by the way, could we license that character from you? So the 1973 run of Shazam is actually in continuity to the Fawcett comics, and he lives on his own Earth S, although DC occasionally lets him have non-conjugal visits. Shouldn't say that about Shazam. He's to Earth too.
Remember,
can't say all of the off the cuff stuff. Sometimes it's gotta be me.
Okay,
I love it. I love it that might be record.
Like, you've said a lot of outlandish things, but that might be the one comment that gets you canceled.
Oh, God. Price is canceled. Make sure to spell the canceled with a K to keep it on brand.
Please do.
So then we get the power of Shazam in post-crisis with there's like some initial post-crisis stuff that doesn't even quite work in continuity with the actual power of Shazam series. But if we don't put it all together here, it will get abandoned. So we're just going to, like, have that confusing stuff. But there's actually some really nice stuff at the beginning in Legends where he, like, hurt somebody by mistake, and now he's on this main Earth and he's part of the DC universe, and he's like, I'm never going to be Shazam again. It's actually really kind of cool. And I think that Power of Shazam series in the 90s is actually one of DC's best books of the 90s.
Absolutely.
Then there's the out of continuity but highly demanded Billy Batson Magic of Shazam Kids series from 2008 to 2011. And then there is Geoff Johns taking the reign of Shazam so he can just make him miserable and unhappy and not a cheerful comic book. Vote for it. It starts in 2012.
That's kind of Johns' thing, if we're being honest.
I like that one. Wait, the courts ruled with Fawcett won, but DC had mob ties and beat him down.
I mean, yeah, Geoff Johns.
That sounds like a tabloid.
You have a playful, joyful series like Justice League International, which is a great comedy series, and Geoff Johns thinks, let's take one of them and plug them in the head. This is like taking
you know what? They did a lot worse than Identity Crisis. Okay, but I'm not going to go there.
Well, I mean,
they took my favorite characters from JLI and said, you know what? let's bring real world problems to these characters.
Well, I remember like okay, I think it was Countdown to Infinite Crisis. Is that
yeah? Don't spoil what happens, but
no,
yeah,
I won't spoil what happened.
That still was not as bad as what happened in Identity
I will
Crisis.
say that's the one. I think one comic when I got done reading it, I literally fed it into a paper shredder. Which I had
on the cover, man.
Which I had about The Office, just because I remember it actually tried to rationalize and explain why Justice League International was a bit goofy. And I'm like, what the hell's the matter with you? This is like trying to rationalize why Seinfeld is funny. You know,
if they wanted to do an Omni Deluxe compendium of the recent Tim Drake stories, they could include all of the Megan Fitzmartin stuff, including Urban Legends, Pride, and Future State Robin Eternal. There we go.
That Write it in, baby. You solved it. We'll have it next year.
Yeah.
The treatment of the JLI characters in Identity Crisis and Infinite Crisis was atrocious.
No, you're not wrong, and in a couple of them never recovered from it. Maxwell Lord never recovered. So.
No, they did him right in the movie, didn't they? The Wonder Woman.
Well, the movie's a bit different, but no,
that was a joke too.
No, I agree.
All right,
yeah.
The Spectre.
Okay.
Tigereyes, take this one.
Yes, sir.
Take this one, buddy.
So you have the Golden Age from 1940 and on. Spectre by Doug. Is it Mensch?
Mensch.
Yeah. Mensch.
87 through 89. Spectre by Ostrander, 2 volumes out of that one, and then Spectre Hal Jordan by J.M. DeMatteis through 2003.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Spoilers on that title, but I didn't care. I'm like, we gotta let people know it is Hal Jordan.
Spectre. Well, yeah. I mean, that is the book. I mean,
like, and it's one of those books I'm honestly surprised they never gave us a trade paperback of. They gave us Day of Judgment stuff, but that was it. Like, we never got a collection of, hey, there's this really weird era where Hal Jordan was the Spectre. And it is the beginning of Green Lantern Rebirth. And if anybody wanted to go and read that, they would be like, where is that? Like, where can you find it? By the way, The Spectre by John Ostrander, not to say anything else on this list, is bad, but it's so damn good.
It really is.
So damn good.
I've not read all of it, but what I have read, I was like, Jesus, this is pretty great.
And it's another one that has not fully been collected in trade paperbacks either.
No.
Suicide Squad.
Okay.
I'll tackle this quickly.
Go for it, Peter.
So we have the 2 John Ostrander Suicide Squad. There's actually, defying all logic and reason, already a silver and bronze Suicide Squad omnibus that has everything pre-crisis. So there's nothing to talk about. So they spin out of, is it Legends or Millennium? I think it's Legends. And so then there's this long, fantastic John Ostrander run, which would need 2 books to get through. Then we would, by the way, that bronze one, I think it's the only Suicide Squad omnibus, which is wild since they've had multiple movies. So then we have the 2001 run, and then there's like a mid 2000s run, and then there's like a late 2000s run, but they're all like between 7 and 10 issues. So they would just have to get ganged all together in this book. Then we get into New 52, and there's 2 different Suicide Squad series. There's the initial Suicide Squad series of New 52, which you haven't read it. Harley is in the team, but it's got this like weird indie comic flair. Matt Kint wrote some of it. Alice Cott, who I'm obsessed with, wrote some of it. Oh, Omar, can you interview Alice Cott one day? Oh my gosh, I would be there. Then all right, I'll write it down. So then we have volume 2, which they relaunched, which is like a little bit more normal superhero-y. Then there's like the big one that I think a lot of people would be familiar with, which is Suicide Squad by Rob Williams and Rebirth, which Jim Lee drew the first few arts by. And then there's great. Then there's like a couple of shorter runs, and I didn't quite know what to do, in which case I followed the Omar rule, mash them together. So there's Tom Taylor's run, which is really fun. It has a lot of setup for things that'll happen in his John Kent run. It's beautiful too, because it's by the Nightwing art team, some of it. And then there's a run by Robbie Thompson and Dennis Hopeless, which is a little bit more Peacemaker led and Task Force XE. So that's like a fun book. It's like a Harley half and a Peacemaker half, and it's actually really 2 pretty fun runs to read.
Yeah. You know what? I just realized that there's so much love for Ostrander in the comments, especially when I make a video and I ask, how is there not a Suicide Squad by John Ostrander? At least with Suicide Squad, they did finish his series in trade paperbacks, and they gave us the 12-issue series that he did in trade paperback.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know how we didn't get a Suicide Squad omnibus with 2 movies that were out.
I think they were really focused on the trades, because they did cover that Ostrander run beautifully in trade paperback. And that was coming out through that whole period. Yeah. No, some of it was maybe went up to the first
Those
movie.
trades were done before that movie was even
Yeah,
announced.
maybe you're right.
What
But
they,
yeah,
what they
Ostrander
did
is
do
one of
was
those
give
ones
us-
that
No,
it just feels like his name is big enough and beloved enough that like actual comic book fans would buy all of these John Ostrander books because he's just so reliable. It's like Doug Munch, who like I don't think Marvel ever thought was like an omnibus seller, and then like all of his omnibuses tend to really sell because the fans know that a Doug Munch book is going to be fantastic, and I put John Ostrander in that same category.
I feel the same about James DeMatteis too. Like, there's a lot of love in the comments, a lot of love in like the chat about James DeMatteis, and he doesn't have a omnibus with his name on it. You know, neither at Marvel nor DC.
No, I think you're right.
All right, let's keep going because we got to go through the Super Family. Superboy first. Superboy. This Superboy's like a Lars character. Lars, take
Wow. Yeah.
Am I wrong, Lars?
No, well, not no, because he is part of the Legion. I love, by the way, how the Legion stories, like, I always want to do a count on like every Legion story where Superboy is incapacitated by kryptonite, because it seems like every single issue, every villain has kryptonite on hand. You wonder why they use them at all. Okay, so Superboy Golden Age Omnibus Volume 1, that's the Golden Age material. Then the Silver Age material, there we go. Bronze Age is going to be the stuff until Legion of Superheroes, there we go. Superboy, The New Adventures of Superboy by Bates and Kupperberg. Yeah, that was in the 80s. Superboy in the 1990s. Superboy Boy of Steel by Johns and Lemire. And then the New 52. This one breaks down pretty easily.
I'm honestly surprised we don't have any Superboy in omnibus format already. Like, we've had Supergirl, and I'm pretty sure we'll get Super Pets before we get a Superboy collection.
That's a very good question.
Myself, selfishly, I love that 90s era of Superboy. And I really like Connor. Like, he is such an awesome character.
This is a character who's changed quite a lot over the years.
Oh, yeah, this is a lot different. Yeah. Well, gosh, damn it.
Because first he was just, very young Clark Kent. And that's like, oh, that never happened. We're just going to totally pretend the opposite.
Yeah. And then after Infinite Crisis and in the Reign of Superman, we got a new one. And that's Connor. And Connor went all the way through Infinite Crisis and well, never mind. That's a spoiler. But with Flashpoint, they did away with Connor. And in the New 52 era,
yes,
Superboy was somebody else. Although Connor came back for a while, but it was in a different universe. What the hell was that called? Is it part of that young animal? Is it Young Animals? What it was called? Yeah, I think it was part of that. Whew. Supergirl.
Okay.
I can tackle this quickly. So there's a Supergirl Bronze Age Omnibus, which would have all of her 70s material, although she's also in Superman Family at this point. So this is one of those times that there is a double dip on the poll. You might prefer to have all of Superman Family in one book. You might prefer just to have the Supergirl material. She does then have her own series in the early 80s that graduated from Superman Family. That would fit into this book as well. So then we have, I think, one that's going to attract a lot of votes, which is Supergirl by Peter David, Volume 1 and Volume 2, to collect his entire run. A lot of people asked if what's the one that follows that. Fallen Angel is the series, not continuity and fully owned by Peter David. I went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I know.
It can't be reprinted by DC.
Yeah, DC doesn't know that.
I think IDW was the last ones that were printing that book, but that is his continuation of the character of Matrix.
Yeah,
that's Peter David doing whatever he wanted to.
Yeah. So then there is the mid-2000s Supergirl series, which also started from Superman Batman. And actually that briefly becomes a Legion of Superheroes series, but I didn't want to make these listings too complicated. But at one point it is Supergirl and the Legion of Superheroes. It ends with a pretty cool run by Kelly Sue DeConnick. Then we have Supergirl in the New 52, which starts with art from Mohammed Asrar, which is actually how I discovered Asrar on art. Really, really good looking book. Then there's Supergirl in Rebirth. She launches and then goes through a few different writers, Steve Orlando, Jody Hauser, and Mark Draco.
Peter David for me. I love that character. I love that era. Oh my gosh. But I know that the Michael Turner Supergirl from the Superman Batman has a huge fan following too. But that's also another one of the different characters. There's which of the Legion of Superheroes is the one with Supergirl? It's the one that's actually marked Supergirl and the Legion of Superheroes. If you go back to the Legion of Superheroes slide.
Yeah. Sometimes in these discussions, the wisdom of like creator-only omnibuses is questioned, and this is a really good example of that. I would gladly buy Supergirl by Peter David. I really don't care about Supergirl otherwise. I don't have anything against it, the character. I just, if Peter David's there, I'll show up. Some of these gaps are a little weird considering, the Supergirl TV show ran for 6 years, and you'd think they would put out something more modern to support it, but they kind of didn't.
I think it was because they couldn't get a creative team to stick on the book. I don't know. Maybe they changed the way they run things.
Well, I meant even collecting some of this, would have been,
Oh, we did get some trades during that run.
Yeah, trades, again,
reprints of books that were out of print for a long time.
Sure. Yeah, that's true.
Now, before I talk about Superman, or we talk about Superman, I'm sorry. This part of the episode is brought to you by cheapgraphicnovels.com, and they're running a huge sale right now on Dark Horse Comics, which has nothing to do with DC except for the fact they both start with D's. But it's books more than 50% off, all the way to 75% off. So there's a huge sale going on right now at cheapgraphicnovels.com. Tell Near Mint Condition sent you their way for free shipping on your next order after your first one. Woo, Superman.
Okay.
We were
Lots of Superman.
Good luck, everyone. Hope you survive the experience.
All right, let's split this up. Was it you, Peter, that did it? Or you got some breath in you left?
I literally made 4 brand new Superman guides that never existed before in Crushing Crisis, so I would understand this well enough to be able to talk about mapping. So now I have that all. So let's start. Golden Age, it's funny, Golden, Silver, and Bronze are all exactly a decade apart right now in their standings. So we need a Golden Age Volume 8, we need a Silver Age Volume 2, and we need a Bronze Age Volume 1. Then there is DC Comics Presents, which for all intents and purposes was Superman Team Up.
Absolutely.
And that's towards the end of the 70s. So I don't think it would just be included in the Bronze book. I think much like Marvel Team Up, it probably could have its own book, or maybe it would be in the Bronze book. Vote with your heart. So then we didn't do a Superman in the early 80s book. Because we're so far away from that with the Bronze Age Omnibus, we just need to start there, much like Green Lantern. Then we get to post-crisis Superman. Buckle up, folks. So there's the 2 John Byrne omnibuses. I mathed it out entirely. It will fit into 2. Yeah. The first one will have everything from the hardcovers plus the World of Krypton. The second one will have everything from the hardcovers plus World of Metropolis and Action Comic Weekly. Also, there's a 2-issue Lois Lane series, I think by Mindy Newell, that I think would also go into that first one. So then it's kind of complicated, but they did the Superman Exile Omnibus. And so the next omnibus sequentially would be Exile Aftermath, but it also would need to pick up a little bit of material from Action Comics from before Exile because they didn't put it in Exile. It's a long story. That's why there's a mapping post. Then we get into Triangle Era. They've already done they're doing in a few months, a Triangle Era Volume 1. So we didn't map all the way through the Triangle Era because it starts to get messy, but here's what we did do. We did Triangle Era Omnibus Volume 2 because that would connect from Volume 1 to Death of Superman, easy. Then we did Superman Triangle Era Death and Return Aftermath because that immediately follows from there. That probably would not quite get all the way to 0 hour just on a pure math perspective. What would be really cool if DC could get it to the point where we just got 1 year of Triangle per omnibus, and they could say the 1994 omnibus, the 1995 omnibus. But because Death of Superman straddles 1992 and 1993, it's really hard to get the maps to line up like that. But I think it would actually be a really clever idea. So if you're really into Triangle, which I am too, just vote through there because it's no point trying to map past that. We don't know how DC would do it. But then we pick up with what would be the final Triangle book, which would be Our Worlds at War, which is actually kind of an event book because not only does it has the contents of 2 Our Worlds at War trades, not only could it fit all of the Our Worlds at War one-shots, some of which have never been collected, but also there's like another 3 months of Superman at the end of Triangle Era after Our Worlds at War, and it could collect that too. So it is the natural final omnibus of Triangle. Then we get to Post Triangle, which gets a little bit controversial. Some people might want it all in one book, right? That's the last thing on this slide. Superman Post Triangle Era, Volume 1 of 4. It has all of the Superman line, even though it's not explicitly in triangle order, all in one book. However, there are some very distinct creator-specific runs in that immediate post-triangle era. Some people might want them on their own. For example, Superman Post-Triangle Era Adventures of Superman by Joe Casey and Greg Rucka. Very attractive. You might just want that on its own and not ganged up with everything else. I mapped it both ways, but I will tell you there are enough crossovers that you might just prefer to get the all-in-one book, but feel free to split your vote if you would like. We know there's people who feel really strongly both ways. But it continues
Oh,
because they took the words right out of the mouth in the chat there. Superman by Kurt Busiek, Hat of Spirit. There it is. Busiek and Johns, which would be volume 1 and on, collecting both Action and Superman following Infinite Crisis because they were written by similar creative teams. Then we have Superman Confidential, which is kind of its own series. It's pretty brief and it's creator-centric. So there's some other pre-Flashpoint creator-centric miniseries that we could probably throw in with that as well. Then we get Superman by James Robinson and JMS. That would collect around New Krypton because New Krypton really needs its own book. The next book, Superman, the Complete New Krypton Saga. That has everything New Krypton in it. Meanwhile, while Superman is doing New Krypton stuff, then there is The World Without Superman in Action Comics, written by Rucka and Paul Cornell, that has some Nightwing and Flamebird stuff. It has The Black Ring, which is a Lex Luthor story. It has a couple of Supergirl issues, and then it comes back together with Superman for Reign of Doomsday. That would cover literally every Superman issue from Infinite Crisis all the way to Flashpoint. Now we're in New 52. New 52, Superman, the adjectiveless, plain old Superman title, has never been collected in Omnibus. It was written by Perez, Jurgens, Lobdell, Johns, and Yang. What a lineup. Could it all fit into one book? Yes, if it didn't include crossovers, which the trades never did. So maybe it would all be in one book. Then there's the Superman Action Comics in New 52, which comes after the Grant Morrison run, which is largely written by Greg Pak, although Lobdell and Diggle get some stuff in there too. I think that would be the book to fit some of those crossovers into because it's shorter. It doesn't have to tackle all of New 52 because there's 18 issues already collected in the Morrison book. Then we get to Rebirth. So there's Superman by Action Comics by Jan Jurgens in Rebirth, which is a perfect omnibus size before it is ended by Bendis joining the line. Would you maybe squeeze in Lois and Clark that spun out of Conversions into that Jan Jurgens book?
Yes, I
think
would.
so, because
Yes,
it is by Jurgens and it's frigging amazing. It's so good. It sets up one of the best Superman runs ever in my mind because Jurgens just gets it. I'm there every time he writes Superman. But then we have Bendis. So we kind of just gave you a volume 1 and a 2 from the assumption that if you want this, you probably want both. Would volume 1 be Superman and volume 2 be Action? Would they actually integrate and then just be 2 sequential? I don't know. If you want one of them, you probably want both of them. So just vote for both of them. And then finally, we have the very recently concluded Superman Action Comics, The World Saga by Philip Kennedy Johnson. It was in trade, but that trade was skipping a couple of issues at the beginning that are actually pretty critical, including the Superman and the Authority miniseries by Morrison. And also it doesn't collect the final run from Action Comics 1050 to 1060, which I just read 2 weeks ago getting ready for this poll and is one of the best comic books I've ever read. Full stop. It's so much fun. The art is incredible. Rafa Sandoval, good Lord. So there you go. Every Superman issue from the beginning of time to current day.
Bravo. Bravo.
Boom. Dude. That was amazing. Dibs on
If I smoked, I'd have my lighter out,
Superboy
too.
Prime Omnibus, by the way. Oh, I would love to map that one.
Oh, I hope not. Yeah, I mean, yes, wonderful.
You know, the interesting thing about Superman that I've always heard is that the lack of Superman Omnis has to do with the licensing and rights they have and arrangements they have with the family.
Oh.
But that didn't make any sense when we got
how can
Superman
that be,
Man of Steel hardcovers.
how that just can't be true in a world where we're getting the Superman omnibuses that we are. The family, to by this my knowledge, does not have editorial control over this. They don't get to go to the family and go, would you like a triangle era? Yes. Would you like a John Byrne? No. So that doesn't make any sense.
But I mean, if I don't know anything about this part, I mean, the logistics of it, right? I'm not a copyright lawyer.
Well,
I'm not
granted,
sure how that would work.
Yeah.
But if they did, I would assume that's, depending on what kind of deal the family worked out, they might be getting a lot of money for things like an omnibus.
Well, they might.
In the Schuster and Siegel family.
But yeah, they might. But again, if it doesn't stop them from putting out a triangle era omnibus, which they are, then it shouldn't be a problem.
Oh, no, for some reason it was the John Byrne specific stuff.
No, Occam's razor would suggest that it's just that. How shall I put this delicately?
Don't do it delicately.
DC has struggled to get its act together when it's collected editions.
That's so delicate.
I mean, not having a Superman by John Byrne omnibus is just insane, but it is far from the only insane omission that they have. So I don't think it's a right situation. I think it's just DC hasn't pulled it together.
That's really interesting.
Peter has had to go off to
Peter
cry
is
a little bit.
breathing right
This-
now.
this-
He's taking a breath of air.
This discussion has upset him so much that he's, weeping for the lack of Superman books. Yeah.
Let me make sure he didn't message me anywhere else that he's having issues. Okay, Superman Family. Let's go ahead and do that with. Oh, this is where we put New Superman by Jean Luen Yang, which is a freaking fun book. If you've never had a chance to read it, only available in trades. Power Girl by Palmiotti, Gray, and Winnick. And if you're asking why is Power Girl part of the Superman family, maybe you need to read more Power Girl from before the crisis. Steel, the 1990s omnibus by Wheezy and Christopher Priest. John Bogdanove doing a lot of the artwork in that run. Superman by Bendis Companion, Jimmy, Lois, Leviathan, and Checkmate. There you are.
Those were really good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The Checkmate stuff was fun.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Bendis came in and did. Anyway, there it is. It's not a review episode. Superman Family, the Bronze Age Omnibus, Volume 1. Again, mapped at Crushing Crisis, which we will leave the link when you get the vote. John Kent, Son of Kal-El by Tom Taylor. And Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, Silver Age. I know. I'm curious where that one gets voted. Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, the Bronze Age Omnibus. Holy crap. She was huge. Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, Bronze Age. Includes all the Kirby's material through the end of the series. So it will be double dipping a bit, right?
But there's uncollected material at the end there, which is why we put it on.
Oh, of course. I get it.
Yeah.
And then the Silver Age, 1954, and on Superwoman by Phil Jimenez and Kate Perkins, the Rebirth Omnibus, which is another great series. Swamp Thing. Somebody was waiting for Swamp Thing.
Yep.
The lack of Power Girl stuff
you make
out
my
there
head.
makes me sad.
Yeah.
Also, they let a lot of those trades go out of print and just brought one back last year. Like made it a trade. Though.
The degree to which by Harley Quinn's been selling Power Girl by Palmiotti and Connor I would think would do really well. But...
Yeah, I would think so. All right, Swamp Thing. We all love Swamp
Thing. You make my heart sing. Okay.
Now, Swamp Thing by
See,
Alan
this is
Moore.
another curious omission. There's no Swamp Thing by Alan Moore, although they did put out the absolutes, so maybe they're just biding their time.
I would do this with the original colors. Tatiana Wood's original colors, just to make sure that my dumbass and people like my dumbass buy the omnibus and have the absolutes because I want the original colors.
If it used the new coloring, would you refuse to buy it?
I don't know if I need 2 copies of that because I mean it would take.
Because you have the absolutes.
It's Alan Moore. They would have to split it up into 2 omnis. So it would be 2
Not
omnis.
necessarily.
No. Well,
They might
Peter.
for the money.
Peter, Lars, it's Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. They're going to split it up into.
oh well.
This is behind the scenes arguing.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
2 omnis, guys.
Right, but it's 1 vote. So get your vote
one
in
vote,
if you want
there
to
you
see
go.
it. We could have put it in original colors and new colors and really had a summit, a real choice, but we just put the 1.
So the Rick Veitch and Doug Wheeler series that leads into the Nancy Collins omnibus is collected in here. So that's the post Alan Moore stuff. And then you have Brian K. Vaughan's era, which would be a small omnibus, but he still had enough material for an omnibus. And the Diggle and Dysart, how do you say his last name, Lars?
It's Dysart.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
All
You're a man
right.
of many words, but you don't know Dysart. Okay.
Dysar.
That's the 2004 to 2006 era. And then the Swamp Thing by Ram V and Mike Perkins era.
I almost missed this. They just, and maybe Omar already announced it, they just announced a Rick Veitch omnibus, or not Rick Veitch, what comes after Nancy Collins, Lars? Miller.
Oh,
They
yeah,
just
no,
announced
yeah.
a Miller omnibus for January
Miller,
2025.
Yeah, Miller and Hester are taken care of.
Yeah, so that's done. Yeah.
It's a weird omnibus, but sure. More Swamp Thing, better. Swamp Thing has remarkably been collected quite well, like, because he's had the Scott Snyder and the Charles Soule omnibus, which is phenomenal if you haven't had a chance to read it. And then the Nancy Collins book, which is great. And what was the other the Bronze Age stuff, right? That leads into.
Yeah, you sort of wonder where the property would be if Alan Moore had not used it as a vehicle to become Alan Moore. I mean, no Alan Moore, and I wonder if it would just be quietly sitting there like Howard the Duck. But who knows?
You leave Steve Gerber's masterpiece alone. Titans and Young Justice, finally. Oh, this was so fun to map. Peter, you want to talk about this one? This one's fun. Let's talk about this slide.
Okay, let's talk about it. So look, we have a fantastic Titans Omnibus line, so fantastic that DC has literally done it twice to amend the errors of the first time around, which is a lovely bit of attention to detail that we'd love to see from DC and Marvel more often, especially DC, because they make more errors in omnibuses. So we would actually continue that line. I called it New Titans Volume 1. Really would also kind of be the same thing as New Teen Titans Volume 5. Choose your poison. They're the same book. So then we have what I didn't do is include a separate book for Team Titans in the early 90s, because that book, much like the Justice League books, has had a convention of collecting all of the Titans material. So we don't need to like divvy it up. It's just always been an everything book. So then the next sequential Titans relaunch is Teen Titans by Jurgens in 1996. Then we have Titans No Teen by Grayson, Faber, and Pyre from 1998 to 2003. By the way, that Jurgens team is very strange. It is not a traditional Teen Titans team. Then alongside that,
the second Terra, the one with black hair, I think,
very unrecognizable characters to me, a DC neophyte. So then we get into Young Justice, which we already have an Omnibus Volume 1. So then we just need a second Omnibus to finish. Then we have Teen Titans by McKeever and Krull from 2007 to 2011. That follows Teen Titans by Johns, which we do have an Omnibus of. But at that same time, there's also the Adult Titans by Judd Winnick. And that actually has a lot of really interesting mapping stuff that could fit into it. There's like a Raven miniseries and other stuff. So it would actually be a really, really big book. Then we get into New 52. There's 2 different Teen Titans runs in New 52. First, the Scott Lobdell run, then the Will Pfeiffer run. These are anchored primarily by Tim Drake. Wonder Girl, this is where we get Wallace West, the New 52 version of Wally West that now still exists beside Wally West. I actually really enjoy him. But then there's also Titans, the Rebirth Omnibus by Dan Abnett. Take note, it actually says it starts in 2015 because Titans Hunt was by Abnett, and it was in 2015. It preceded Rebirth, but it actually was like the first tickler of what might be happening in DC Rebirth. So it would be in that book. Then there's Teen Titans, the Rebirth Omnibus by Ben Percy and Adam Glass. That would be a pretty big honker. There could be an omnibus, an argument to split it into 2, but I was like, are people going to really vote for both? Let's just put it in one. It could possibly work, even with all the crossover material. Then we have Young Justice and Naomi. Young Justice was part of the Wonder Comics line by Brian Bendis and David Walker. Naomi is also by Brian Bendis and David Walker, and she turns up in that series. She doesn't have enough material for her own book, so that's a wonderful way to put them both into omnibus format. And then finally, we have Teen Titans Academy. And then there's a few Titans limited series by Kevon Scott that immediately precede this new Tom Taylor relaunch that started in 2023. So they kind of like deal with the same era of Titans where they're Academy professors, which is quite definitively ended at the beginning of Tom Taylor's run because of Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. So that actually fits really well together. And it's like the perfect omnibus size. It's like about 30 issues.
So the Teen Titans, the New Titans Volume 1, would that be the canceled Teen Titans Omnibus Volume 6? Is that what you're saying?
I thought it'd be 5. I could be mistaken. It could be 6.
Well,
Titans numbering is an intense mystery sometimes.
They solicited a Volume 6.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. It's in the catalog, and then they canceled it twice.
6 was mostly, I think, Teen Titans Spotlight.
And also,
that is a myth by me. It should say 6 instead of 5. Hopefully,
okay. Just want to make sure people are voting for the right thing.
But 6 doesn't exist.
It should be 6.
6 doesn't exist as of this video. If you're watching this 5 months later after it's been announced, I hope so, because I think it showed.
Well, good thing I called it Volume 1 then, because Volume 5 was wrong.
Oh no, that's good. That's good. You were thinking ahead, just in case. Yeah, so it would have been the New Teen Titans Omnibus Volume 6. They pulled it out of the catalog, and it also has that George Perez story in there too. That was an original graphic novel.
Somewhat confusingly, they do rename it New Titans. So a case could be made to make it New Titans Volume 1 as opposed to New Teen Titans Omnibus Volume 6 because it's sort of isn't. Yes.
I'm trying to double check that for you.
Cancel Crisis.
Oh, that's already happening. It's what was the damn graphic novel called? I think it was like Drugs. Okay, so it's Games. That was it. Thank you.
Oh wait, Sazmer's to my rescue. It says follows Teen Titans Omnibus Volume 5. I did not mess up. That is correct.
Okay, so then that would be before Omnibus Volume 6, the one that got canceled.
It is Omnibus Volume 6, but it's New Titans Volume 1.
So okay, in
Yeah,
that
no,
map-
I think it's the Teen Titans Spotlight stuff is what's
Okay,
in the wind
so
here.
here's what's on that omnibus that got canceled. New Teen Titans Games 1, World's Finest 300, Teen Titans Spotlight 1 through 21,
Yeah.
and then the New Teen Titans Drug Awareness issues 1 through 3. That is not what you have on your New Titans.
No, it's not.
omnibus.
That would be
No,
a
no, no,
separate
no.
one.
Okay, so yes, if you want the New Titans comics that follow on from New Teen Titans, it's like issue 50 and up, then you should vote for New Titans Volume 1. And perhaps we should add something for New Teen Titans Spotlight. Or New Teen Titans Volume 6, yeah.
Okay. So there isn't a spot to vote for 6. Knock on wood. We hope that DC is just... Why are you starting a movement? We hope DC actually puts that out. Oh, was that it? Was there a Young Justice by Peter David too? Okay, there it is. Yes, we went through that. The DC Trinity.
So we kind of grouped everything into this. That's Batman and or Superman and or Wonder Woman. So we already have 2 World's Finest Silver Age omnibuses. A third one would take us through the Bronze Age. Then we could start a World's Finest Bronze Age line. After that, oh, wait, more Titans.
Nope. I went the wrong way. I'm going the wrong way. This overthrow.
You're driving in New Zealand. Okay. So then we have World's Finest Post-Crisis, which is actually, there's not one World's Finest series. It's just a series of small mini-series and arcs that are World Finest. So that would be 20 years of comics pretty much in one omnibus. Then there's Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Trinity by Kurt Busiek in 2008. Would that include the non-Trinity backup series stories in that? We don't have to answer that. You can just vote for it. Then there's World's Finest New 52, which technically is not actually Batman and Superman. It's Huntress and Power Girl. Yeah. Then there's Batman Superman by Greg Pak, which was Batman and Superman, which is the reason the World's Finest was not Batman and Superman. Then somebody asked for it in the chat. Here's Superman, Wonder Woman, the New 52 omnibus, which guess what? That series was great. Also, I think that would include a lot of the crossovers from that period, especially the Doomed crossover with Doomsday, which really primarily spun out of that book. Then there is Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Trinity, the Rebirth omnibus, because they had their own title called Trinity. But if we just put Trinity on there, nobody would know what it meant. But also we could squeeze, that was only like 22 issues. So we could squeeze in there Batman, Brave and the Bold, Batman and Wonder Woman, which I think is by Liam Sharp. Then we have Batman, Superman by Joshua Williamson and Jean-Lin Yang, which is about 25 issues. That was in Rebirth. And then finally, we have Batman and Superman World's Finest, the currently acclaimed run by Mark Waid. Again, we really tried not to put current ongoing runs on here, but so many people already are saying this is so great that it should be an omnibus. It was nominated for an Eisner. So there it is.
And it's had 3 trades already. It's not like it's just started out, right? Like,
no,
it's got 3 hardcovers and 3 trades, and I'm sure we'll get an omnibus one day. But then again, I say that, and nothing has come. Where are you putting, just out of curiosity, the actual Trinity by Wagner?
By Wagner, I don't know.
We'll have to fit it somewhere.
Yeah,
I can see that in the Batman, Superman, World's Finest Post-Crisis.
Yeah, it might be in there. I'm looking in the list right now.
Let's see. The second Trinity should be Flash, Green Lantern, and Aquaman. Wildstorm. All right.
Yes,
let's get
baby.
Nuts. So much fun mapping these.
Unfortunately, gentlemen, I do have to jet. I'm sorry about that. It's always a great pleasure. Thank you. Always a great time. I'm not joking when I say this helps me not think about real problems. So thank you very much. Good luck. Hope you survive to the end.
Okay. Bye, Lars. So these were fun events and fun to map. Armageddon Revelations, those are events. The DC era events from Captain Atom and Armageddon to Dream War. You did this mapping, didn't you, Peter?
Yes, I own every single one of the comics on these maps, and I have already bound them, got them rubber banded into binds. Look, guys, we do not need to talk about every one of these. If you have a favorite Wildstorm property, it's on here and it's on the poll and it says Wildstorm at the beginning. I can't. We need a whole other stream for me to explain the complete history of Wildstorm to you. Things to take note of. There's a lot of authority outside of the Authority Omnibus we already have. There's a whole lot of Midnighter material that could be omnibus of its own. There's a lot of material to the side of the omnibus, including a lot of mini-series and the Monarchy and the Establishment, which are 2 separate series. Backlash, which actually might be so big it would need 2 omnibuses, which has a lot of great content if you even remember who that character is.
Brett Booth,
we have
baby.
We have a Wildstorm companion that has a lot of the smaller Wildstorm series that just do not fit into one of these big lines. Deathblow, which would be an amazing 1 volume that has tons of art from Jim Lee and Tim Sale. Divine Right, which was Jim Lee coming back to drawing full time in the late 90s. It has a trade, but the trade is actually almost 500 pages, and there's a couple of extra things we could cram in there to make a good omnibus. DV8, which was a spin-off of Gen 13. Fire from Heaven, which was an event crossover. Gen 13, look, we could do a 2-hour stream trying to map Gen 13. It is frigging wild. Gen 13 has so many one-shots. It has the Gen 13 bootleg series. It has so many crossovers. You can't even get literally 10 issues into the Gen 13 ongoing series from 1995 without having 20 issues of other books. So we only mapped volume 1 because it's just impossible to figure out how DC would do it. But much later, there's Gen 13 Armageddon and World's End, which is actually mostly and almost entirely written by Gail Simone. So again, probably something people would really enjoy right now.
And before you talk about the next book, where's Wildstorm versus Aliens? Now,
that's a great question. Great question. It should, even though it's called Wildcats versus Aliens and would be in a Wildcat omnibus on the next slide, really it's a Stormwatch story, and it would be in the Stormwatch omnibus also on the next slide. Trust me, I know my Wildstorm.
Or in a Marvel versus Wildstorm omnibus, because Aliens is now being printed at Marvel Comics. So, really quick, you guys didn't list the Supergirl Legion of Superheroes. It's in there. It's under Legion of Superheroes.
No, it's under Supergirl. It's we've talked about this in the comments a lot of times. Travis, I've added you a few times. Supergirl, her title only changed to Legion of Superheroes for about 12 issues. It's in the
slide, though, isn't it? Isn't it in these Legion slide?
No.
I could have sworn it was in that slide. I may have guided him the wrong way. Check later. Check later.
Now. Nope.
No. Check later. Check later.
No, it's already checked. I can do 5 things at once. Okay.
No, you cannot.
Slide. Okay. So Stormwatch, which could be covered comprehensively. There's the original Stormwatch period before Warren Ellis, which actually is amazing and people should read it more. Then there's the Warren Ellis.
Scott Clark on artwork, right?
Scott Clark on artwork. Yeah, then there's Stormwatch by Warren Ellis, which leads up to the transformation to Authority. That's where Wildcats versus Aliens should rightfully be. Then there's 2 Stormwatch series after that. Team 7, which is kind of like the beginning of everything Wildstorm. It's kind of the origin. So this would actually have Team 0, Team 1, Team 7, Team 12, all of those teams in it. The Wildstorm by Warren Ellis from 2017, which has nothing to do with anything. It's just him playing with the Wildstorm characters separate from all continuity. Union, a very little known character with some great Mark Texeira art on it. Welcome to Tranquility, which was one of the few new Wildstorm properties ever started after 2005, entirely by Gail Simone. Wetworks Armageddon, which is the later part of Wetworks. Wetworks the early years, which is the original Weiss Pistachio Wetworks series, which I think is 44 issues. Fun fact, that was supposed to be the 7th Image launch book, but Weiss Pistachio's sister tragically died, and he didn't have the wherewithal to be a part of the Image founding, and so got folded into Wildstorm. Wildcats 2.0 by Lobdell and Casey, the full 99 series. Wildcats 3.0 by Joe Casey, the full series. And then the full first Wildcats series. The first one is Wildcats Covert Action Team Volume 1. That would be Jim Lee et al. It would take us through issue 13 or 14 if you want to put Image X month in there. The second one would be Alan Moore. Notice we did not say James Robinson in either one of those. It could fit into either one. They'd both be big books. Personally, I think it fits better with the Alan Moore material, but actually, you might think it fits better with the Jim Lee material. But this also includes all of the miniseries: Spartan, Zealot, the Skin Trade, OGN. Trust me, I know my Wildcats. Also, Wildcats versus Aliens would also be in Wildcats Covert Action Teams Volume 2. So it's in 3 different books. Grifter also had several of his own series. That could be its own omnibus line. World's End for Wildcats, stretched from 2005 to 2011, includes the Nemesis miniseries and then the aborted series that was supposed to be by Jim Lee and Grant Morrison, but only had 1 issue. Then there's Wildstorm Rising, a crossover in 1995. And then finally, as if this could ever happen because of the rights issues involved, wouldn't it be nice to have a Wildstorm Valiant Deathmate omnibus? That would just be cool.
I didn't know you were such a big nerd, Peter. I had no idea you loved Wildstorm that much.
I own every single issue on these 2 slides.
That is crazy you like Wildstorm that much. A lot of this stuff, unfortunately, has never been collected. Ever. I have no idea what kind of restoration they would have to do on some of this stuff, especially with those colors they were using. I'm curious to see your mapping now on the Wildcat stuff.
I got it, baby. Let's go. Map my Wildcats. I'm ready.
Map,
Any
you
hour.
want to map
any
my
day.
Wildcats? Let's map the wild. Let's get nuts. We'll get Chris Claremont to join us. Wonder Woman.
My actual favorite character in all of comics.
This is the only DC Omnibus you collect, right? It's the Wonder Woman line.
That's true.
Dang, you just went through all that. Okay, take this too, and then
no, this is why I'm here, man. I got my Wonder Woman hair today. I'm ready.
Okay.
So look, we only need. They haven't announced the contents of Wonder Woman Golden Age 6, but I've done the math. I literally looked through every single issue that I can find and counted the pages. We should only need one more volume, which is volume 7. Then we'll have hit the Silver Age. There's already 2 Silver Age volumes. We only need 1 Silver Age volume 3. Trust me.
That takes us to Diana
because
Prince.
that takes us to Diana Prince. Yeah, baby. And that already exists. It's on my shelf right down there. So then we're in the Bronze Age. Technically, Diana Prince is like the end of the Silver and the beginning of the Bronze, but then we would like properly start the Bronze Age. DC has never collected anything from this except for the beginning arc of 12 Labors, and it's so good. There's so much good Wonder Woman material here. This kicks off with the debut of Nubia, so this is a fantastic book. It would have a really great cover. Omar, this is a run I know so well that I actually pick covers live in a stream, which is rare for me. So then if we get all the way to the end of the Bronze Age and the end of Wonder Woman, and with Wonder Woman 329 as part of Crisis on Infinite Earths, then we hit Perez, which we've got totally covered in 3 omnibuses and the War of the Gods.
And War of the Gods.
Then we hit one of my favorite comic book runs. Come on, Tigereyes, you like this one too, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
there's
baby.
that answer.
Bring the votes in. Wonder Woman by William Messner-Lodes and Mike Diodato. It follows the Prez Omnibus and runs to Wonder Woman 100, but also let's get Artemis Requiem in there as well.
Oh, hell
then we get into a series. Yeah, baby. This is my favorite stuff. The W's, Wildstorm and Wonder Woman. So now we have Wonder Woman by John Byrne that's been collected in standard size hardcover. We don't want any of that stuff. We want the real stuff, the omnibus. Now, there's like a little itty bitty run that follows Byrne, or no, never mind. Maybe that's after Eric Luke. So then after John Burke is Eric Luke, which fits
that stuff has never been collected.
Never. And it fits between Byrne and Jimenez. And it's and there's like a little bit of non-Eric Luke stuff, but it kind of fits there. Clearly they would not market it with his name because I had to Google him to figure out who he is. But it is a nice, tidy omnibus size creative run. Then we get the first Wonder Woman by Greg Rucka run, which is frigging crazy that there's no omnibus. Like, just how does that not exist, right? But there's also a brief run by Walt Simonson and Jerry Ordway that actually fits perfectly into this and lets it be distinct from the Rucka trades, which have been reprinted and sell really well. Then we get a little tricky because there's the Gail Simone omnibus, which collects such a big swath of Wonder Woman, and there's only like 14 issues before that. So like, what are we going to do with that 2006 relaunch of Wonder Woman? But guess what? There's a huge crossover in there, Amazon's Attack. So we can put all of Amazon's Attack and its crossover issues, and it crossed over into Catwoman among other places, and that actually makes that perfectly omnibus sized. But then the Gail Simone omnibus
it's awful. It's awful. It's awful.
Yeah, nobody's saying you should read it,
but I'm going to buy it. I'm
going
to buy the hell out of that omnibus.
All right, but then we also abandoned the JMS stuff after that. So I think I ultimately might have this on the poll twice. I'm sorry if I do. I was just trying to be thorough. So the Wonder Woman by JMS is only 14 issues, but there are some other Wonder Woman stuff like DC Retroactive, the 60s, 70s, and 80s that we could put into this JMS book. Or there's actually somewhere else in this poll, it says Wonder Woman and Superman by JMS because he wrote these 2 abortive 1-year runs on both of them right before Flashpoint. So you could actually prefer to have both of them in one book. Then we have the rest of New 52 because of course we already have an Azzarello and Chang New 52 omnibus. That ends in the 30s, and then there's a Meredith Finch run that follows that. It would be kind of short, but it's still kind of omnibus size. Then we get to Rebirth. Rucka is back, baby, with Nicola Scott on art. That would collect everything from the Greg Rucka roll. So Omar, I mean, come on. So good.
It's one of my most wanted. I still prefer the pre-Infinite Crisis stuff.
Yeah,
the original Greg Rucka. I love that stuff.
That's
my favorite.
It's insane that there's not an omnibus of that. Just
William Messner-Loebs is my second favorite Wonder Woman run. I am all over it. And that was the first time I ever saw Mike Deodato's artwork. And
so then,
no
after
idea
Greg
that
Rucka,
he's so
there's a
huge.
series of individual writers, Shea Fontana, James Robinson, and the first run by Steve Orlando. That is actually perfectly omnibus sized to collect together, because then we get to some really good stuff. G. Willow Wilson's run, way underread, incredible comic books. Orlando comes back briefly, and then Tamaki writes Wonder Woman for as well, and that's a perfectly omnibus sized book. Some of you might say, what about Tynion? Tynion only wrote Wonder Woman for 2 issues, but it's all part of that Witching Hour crossover, which is entirely in the Justice League Dark Omnibus. So if you want to recreate that crossover and jam it into the volume 2 or volume 3, go nuts. But these are the main creators who wrote the main runs in these books. And then finally, starting from 2021, Infinite Frontier, when Wonder Woman was actually going to be basically crammed into the past due to Dan Didio's 5G, but then they reversed it, but they still had to send her somewhere because she wasn't in any of the other current comics they planned. They had Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad send her on an odyssey through all different kinds of pantheons of gods, including to Asgard. And so that would collect Wonder Woman all the way through. Tom King, congratulations. Now you have a complete bookshelf of every Wonder Woman issue ever, which I own all of.
That was amazing. Almost as good as your Wildstorm. But I honestly agree with everything you said, with the exception of one small thing, and that is G. Willow Wilson's run on Wonder Woman. That I just could not click with. Like, I tried.
It was all about love, baby. Wonder Woman's about love.
Maybe I didn't
Come on,
need it.
honey.
Not in my
It's
Wonder
love.
Woman book. Give me war, baby. Give me that war. Peter has better hair than Wonder Woman drawn by Nicola Scott. Wow.
That's the best compliment I'll get in all of 2024.
Wow. That compliment will get you.
I think I've said on an Omar stream before, if any artist could draw me, I would pick Nicola Scott. I believe that.
Not Greg Land? I thought it was Greg Land.
Greg Land number 2. Greg Land
Okay,
covers Nicola
okay.
Scott interiors. Yeah.
Man, you do love you some Wildstorm and Wonder Woman. I
Yeah,
didn't
please
know
talk
your
about whatever's
Wildstorm
next.
passion.
I'm
That
dying.
made me so happy.
I know the new series is too short to be an omnibus, but the new Wonder Woman series is pretty solid as well.
The Tom King stuff?
The Age of Heroes.
Nominated for an Eisner alongside
already.
Tyler Thompson's
My
Birds
goodness.
of Prey and Mark Wade's World's Finest. DC 4 out of 5 ongoing series honor Eisner nominations. Please, Omar, please talk about this.
I got you. Take a break. You were amazing. Whew. Go get a glass of water. So we have DC events, which we know DC has been collecting a lot of omnis. We've had 0 Hour. So even the events that were only like 5 issues, they were like, well, omnibize it and put a bunch of things in there. So there are a lot of missing events, though, like Legends, like Invasion, like Millennium. Those have gotten at least trade paperback collections. Armageddon 2001, and I fought for putting the Alien Agenda and Inferno in there. That has to be in there because it's a holy trinity of horrible, horrible stories. I don't care. I want them so bad. They are awesome in my, like, even the twist ending was spoiled by the pre-internet, but I'm okay with that. The Eclipso, The Darkness Within, a complete omnibus of that. And then we did Bloodlines, the complete omnibus, which would just be huge. And we went ahead and did the Aftermath, which is the new DC heroes. Elseworlds, which is all the annuals of 1994, and then the year 1 annuals, which some of the stuff has already been collected in the like trade paperback formats. Would DC be also part of this?
It's on the Elseworld slides.
Yeah. I'm here for Armageddon 2001. That's right. There's dozens of us. Dozens of us. All right. Go get some sleep, Bar. I'm glad you made it through Wonder Woman.
Thanks for hanging out, Bar. So many great DC women for you to vote for. I am psyched.
And Harley Quinn. Underworld Unleashed. Another one that they've given us trades of with Final Night. Final Night, they re-released it, and at first in the catalog it had more pages, and then they went back to the original page count. And Legends of the Dead Earth, which is the 96 book. Genesis complete, though, like the entire crossover, not just the John Byrne stuff, which was collected in his Fourth World Omnibus. Pulp Heroes annuals, which was a lot of fun. This is when DC was experimenting a lot with their annuals in that 1995, 94, 95, and 96 and 97. Day of Judgment, which of course does a little double dipping with that Hal Jordan Spectre omnibus. Joker: The Last Laugh. I actually have a custom omnibus of that I mapped. It's a lot of fun. And the Infinite Crisis Aftermath. This is one that kind of, when Brandon and I were talking, I'm like, holy crap, there's actually enough stuff for an Infinite Crisis Aftermath. I think we can make an omnibus out of this. So we were trying to find a home for a couple of series and just couldn't, it didn't fit anywhere. So there's also a Final Crisis omnibus. Again, all of this will be on Crushing Crisis.
Yeah, I mapped all this really, really thoroughly over the weekend.
It's amazing. Forever Evil, the complete omnibus, again, that was collected in the Justice League New 52 Omni, but this is everything. And then the Future's End, New 52 era. Convergence, I'm surprised they didn't do. Because we were, like, Convergence was, I thought, a sure thing that was coming. Heroes in Crisis, the complete, oh, I forgot that was an event. Oh my God. And You're the Villain, which they did tease and unfortunately never came. But we did get like Death Metal and Metal, but we didn't get You're the Villain for some reason. Future State, this is the 2021 series, and then the Dark Crisis, which just got printed in a hardcover format late last year. And then this year they printed the Night Terrors hardcovers. So none of this stuff is collected in omnibus format. Which takes us to the DC teams and groups. Woo! Challengers of the Unknown, the Post-Crisis Omnibus by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sell, Alan Grant and Howard Chaykin, 1991 and 2005. Challengers of the Unknown, the Silver Age Omni from 57 to 64. Checkmate, yes, I love this stuff, including the JSA versus Cobra stuff. This is where one of the characters that was introduced in the pages of Greg Rucka's Batman series kind of went. Like, this is where she ended up in, and he tried to make her a big character in that series, especially during the Bruce Wayne Fugitive and Murderer. Checkmate by Paul Kuperberg from 88 to 91. And then these are awesome. The Dial H for Heroes, Silver and Bronze Age Omnis, and the New 52 Omnibus of Dial H for Hero, and the Will Pfeiffer era, the 2003 to 2005 Metal Men, the Silver Age and Bronze Age Omni, Volumes 1, and New Gods by Starlin, Evanier, Payer, and Polek. This is the stuff that, and I'm so glad we put Cosmic Odyssey in here. This is the stuff that leads into the John Byrne taking over the book. Powered Company by Kurt Busiek. Yes, no one ever talks about that book. Sovereign 7 by Chris Claremont, which
they might not have the rights to print.
I was going to say, I think he still owns the rights to that book, if I'm not mistaken. And Stormwatch, the New 52 era. I completely forgot about that. Honestly, Trinity of Sin, which is the Phantom Stranger, Pandora, and the Question, New 52 Omnibus. And then, yes, I think we debated on this one. Then we're like, screw it. Let's put it together. Watchmen and Doomsday Clock. Seriously doubt they would ever do it, but who knows? Oh man, New 52 Stormlight. Oh yeah, there's a lot of bad books in this list, but you know what? Everybody's taste is different. Is that it for hero? For yes, teams.
All right, I'm ready to micro machines this one. I caught my breath. I literally spent 12 hours yesterday proofing every one of these books. I'm ready.
All right, this was fun to map too. Go for it.
All right, Adam Strange, post-crisis. He's made plenty of appearances in this period. He already has a Silver Bronze Omnibus. This would collect all of his miniseries, major solo appearances, all the way up to Flashpoint, pretty much. Ambush Bug had a showcase volume, but the showcase volume actually didn't collect all possible Ambush Bug. It's actually possible to get all of Ambush Bug from when he was created all the way to Flashpoint, all in one book. Amethyst, Princess of the Gem World, again, had one DC, they're not called Spotlight, Showcase. They're one DC Showcase black and white volume, but it didn't actually collect all of her stuff. She actually does have a little bit of post-crisis stuff. Then she was like quietly folded into Legion and never seen from again. This could collect everything. Animal Man, I originally thought he was going to need his own slide, but there's only 2 books we need. Basically, the 2 books that come after Grant Morrison. One is Milligan and Veitch. The next one is Delano and Prosser. Then we would have all Animal Man ever because we already have his amazing Jeff Lemire series from New 52 and an omnibus. Arian, Lord of Atlantis. Shout out Larry's Library. Larry's Library helped us with some of these 70s books. I had no idea what this was, and like it looked really cool. So now I have to go and
it's such an awesome character.
So then we have a lot of books of the Atom. There's a Bronze Age Atom, there's Silver Age Atom, and then there's All New Atom by Gail Simone in the late 2000s, and then there's Atom, the Power of the Atom by Roger Stern and Tom Pyre, which is immediately post-Crisis. So that covers actually pretty much every Atom comic book from 1968 to 2011. Then there's Black Adam. Omar.
I'm sorry. The Atom by Gail Simone, that was a different Atom, though.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, those are not all the same person. Ryan Choi.
Mhm.
So then Black Adam, this is one of our challenges to the Near Mint community. Can you find enough Black Adam material to make an omnibus? And they did. So then Black Lightning, who actually you could get all of his material, almost all of which is written by Tony Isabella, into one book from 1977 to 2018. Let's keep going.
Yes, boss. Let me get Elon's comment right here really quick. He's super stickered us. Harley Quinn is the best character ever created since the dawn of comics. Did Bart all of a sudden become Elon? I love Harley Quinn. I have a signed poster of Margot Robbie and original art by Stefan Sajic on my bedroom wall. That is a lot of love. Who is Ambush Bug? Deadpool, but funny. Oh,
Nailed
what
it.
a great answer. Keith Giffen would love that. Go on.
I'm so
where's
regretful.
Lars and his lame
I
ass
know.
Blue
Lars isn't here to
Beetle?
talk about Blue Beetle. I don't even know if I get. All I will say is that Lars literally made sure that we did not miss a single page of Blue Beetle. It is all contained within here. Trust the year ranges and let that guide your voting. Blue Devil, I have no idea who it is, but that's his complete omnibus. Booster Gold. Booster
go
Gold
ahead.
really
Blue
only
Devil's
has
great.
2 main series, a classic series and then a Johns Giffen and Jurgens series. I put to 2015 because Booster Gold is so weird that even when there's like technically non-continuity Booster Gold material like Convergence, it's kind of still could be continuity Booster Gold material, so we just put it all in there. Then we have a lot of Captain Atom. I saw this in the comments several times. Captain Atom by Carrie Bates. I had no idea there was so much hype around it. I really have always wanted to read this run. It would fit into 2 books. Then there's Captain Atom the modern years from 2005 to 2017 because he has a lot of miniseries. He has a new 52 series and on. Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew had a DC Spotlight showcase, a DC showcase black and white, but it didn't actually collect all of Captain Carrot's material. This would. Let's keep going.
The Captain Atom, the modern years, that's kind of your cup of tea right there, because that becomes like the Wildstorm era. Remember he switched places with what's his name? The Wildstorm version of Captain Atom for a while.
Yeah, and that would start that, but it's also collected potentially in the Wildstorm Armageddon book back on the Wildstorm side, because it actually kind of kicks off the Wildstorm.
Yes, the Cameron Chase omnibus. Love it.
I mean, there's so much good stuff in here. Chase, Creeper, that covers all of Creeper. Cyborg has really only ever had his New 52 and Rebirth runs, which fit together perfectly. Damage in the 90s, then Damage as part of the DC New Age of Heroes in 2018. Darkseid, we tried to throw a couple of villains on here where we know there's enough. Darkseid, I'm sorry. As a child, I thought it was Darkseid, okay? Darkseid from 1970 on, because we threw some villains on here. Then there could be a New Age of Heroes companion that has all those smaller 2018 New Age of Heroes series, Sideways, Brimstone, Immortal Men, Challengers, and Unexpected. Dead Man, I mapped this one meticulously. This could fit probably only not all of the Dead Man material that goes from 1985 and on. There's way more than 50 issues, and there's plenty of stuff to collect just of Dead Man without going into guest appearances. Demon Knights and New 52 series I really enjoyed a lot. Just a quick one and done. Eclipso, the classic omnibus, which is a different character than the Eclipso that you know from the 1990s. Let's keep going. Elongated Man, who has plenty of material to fill up a perfectly sized Silver Age omnibus. Etrigan the Demon. We already have a Jack Kirby Etrigan book, but this would collect his post-crisis series. Frankenstein the Agent of Shade, which is largely by Jeff Lemire. Great series. Love it, from New 52. Grifter and Voodoo, the Wildstorm Refugees and New 52. They each had a brief series, which together would make one book. There's also a Team 7 series in New 52, which of course we'd put in there as well, because it has to do with Grifter. Hawk and Dove, back from the early 80s and early 90s. Great book to gather. Hitman by Garth Ennis and John McCrea, Volume 2, because we already have a Volume 1 that DC has put together. This also could collect some later Ennis material that is kind of Hitman adjacent. I have a mapping post that you can take a look at. It's the newest post on Crushing Crisis right now. Our Man by Tom Pear. Lots of love for this in the Near Mint book. In the Near Mint community, as we were mapping it, people had so many ideas for like extra stories to put in addition to just the main Our Man series, but this would definitely collect the main Our Man series. Human Target by Peter Milligan. Milligan pretty much writes everything there is Human Target, and it all could fit in one book. Then finally, we've come to Jonah Hex. There's so much to talk about. Jonah Hex started in 1970 as a guest in an all-star Western. Then he got his own book. That book ran all the way through the mid-80s. It changed to Hex, no joke. Jonah. Then that book ended, and then he had 3 miniseries in the 1990s. We just called that Jonah Hex, the Classic Omnibus Volume 1, 1970 and on. We don't want to split your votes for 100 different books, 70s, 80s, 90s miniseries. Just vote for that book and tell DC you want to get started. Then there's the Palmiotti and Gray material, which is actually 3 books. It's Jonah Hex by Palmiotti and Gray, Volume 1 and 2, which is the complete series from 2006 to 2011. Then they keep on writing the character in New 52 in All-Star Western, which is the perfect size for a 3rd book. Oh, I do. That's my mistake, not Taylor's mistake. I copied and pasted that onto 2 slides. All right. So then we have Kamandi, The Last Boy on Earth. This would collect the remainder of the Kamandi material that is after the Kirby Omnibus, and then keep collecting the rest of Kamandi's material into the early 90s. Kid Eternity, which is a wild map. You should check it out because the Near Mint folks put it together. And it has basically every Kid Eternity story from 50 years. Legions of Superheroes Valor. That's a little bit of a lie. He's not just a Legion of Superheroes character. He spins out of Eclipse with the darkness within, but he does spend a lot of time with Legion of Superheroes, so we thought it would be easiest for people to find him on the poll if it's titled that way. Lobo by Keith Giffen, Volume 1, which mirrors pretty much the full contents of the compendium that DC has solicited, but wouldn't we rather have it as oversized, and there's plenty more material to continue to collect. Madame Xanadu by Matt Wagner, which is a complete series, plus the 1981 issue, which had nowhere else to go. 2 Manhunter books, one by John Ostrander, Kim Yale, and Stephen Grant. That's the original 1988 Manhunter. Then there's Manhunter by Kate Spencer, which is entirely written by Mark Andreyko from 2004 to 2009, which crosses 2 different series and then also some backups. I forget in what, but it would all fit into one book.
The Streets of Gotham stories.
Thank you, Omar.
I got you.
I'm going so fast because there's so many more slides. Metamorpho, who also had a black and white DC, what is it called? Showcase, and that would all fit into one
showcase.
Yeah, it should be called Silver and Bronze Age, but we just called it Silver because it starts in the silver. Mr. Miracle in the Bronze Age. Yes, it would duplicate some Kirby New World material, but it extends past it, which is why it's on the poll here. Mr. Miracle Post-Crisis Omnibus, which would gather 10 years of his post-crisis material. OMAC by Kirby, Rucka, Byrne, and Jones, which is all OMAC for 20 years of comics. Peacemaker, which I'm the one who mapped. He makes enough appearances of his own all the way to the modern day that you could just cram them all into one book. Plastic Man in the Golden Age, which has his police comics stuff. There's as much Golden Age Plastic Man as there is Wonder Woman. Did you know that? Then Plastic Man in the Silver Age was kind of wild because he has 10 issues, then his series gets canceled, then it comes back 10 years later for another 10 issues. Then there's Plastic Man the Modern Age, which some people were like, that's the Rubber Band book. Yeah, but there are some other series the Rubber Band book did not include that predate the Rubber Band book contents, which is why we have it here. Promethea by Alan Moore. We argued about this down to the last second. Promethea becomes a part of DC continuity during Scott Snyder's run on Justice League, which means she is in scope for the poll, baby. Get to voting. Question Renee Montoya, which is Omnidog's favorite book on this entire bowl because it has the Crime Bible in it. Then we also have Ragman, the complete omnibus. Yeah, I looked up that many Ragman comic books.
I love that.
The Ray in the 90s, a really fantastic series by Christopher Priest, would fit all in one book.
Joe Quesada on art.
Has a
early Joe Quesada art on that book.
I didn't even know that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm at Micro Machine speed right now.
No,
Red Tornado and Primal Force, because he was the anchoring star of Primal Force. Come on, let's go. What's next? Resurrection Man. I own every issue of this. It's a perfect map. Abnett and Lanning wrote it in the late 90s. It includes the DC 1 million issue and the Body Doubles miniseries. And then it has all of his New 52 series and a 1-issue crossover with Suicide Squad. I would definitely vote for that book. Richard Dragon, the Kung Fu Omnibus baby from the 1970s. Rose and Thorn, which I wish I could pull the name out of my head, but somebody on the Near Mint Condition server was like, I'm going to prove to you that there could be a Rose and Thorn book. And they found every issue Rose and Thorn has ever been in. Sandman Wesley Dodds, the Golden Age material of Sandman. Sorry, that's twice, but it's really just one vote on the poll. Sergeant Rock, which had a incredibly long Silver Age run, which we could just get the first volume started, but then also has some modern material from 1992 on. Shade the Changing Man by Peter Milligan, a huge Vertigo run that is beloved, could fit into 2 omnibuses.
Love that
Solomon Grundy, this is Brandon's fault that this exists, but it's on the poll, baby. Born on a Monday omnibus from 1944.
He did Stargirl as well. He mapped Stargirl as well.
Also did. Brandon is you think I know my DC stuff? I just pay close attention when other people talk, including Brandon. Stargirl, which would have all of her stuff all the way up to 2022, actually, the way that Brandon mapped this. Starman by James Robinson, which would fit into 2 omnibuses, including the Shade miniseries in 2011. Starman by Roger Stern and Len Straczynski, which actually predates the Starman by James Robinson. And then let's go even farther back to the Golden Age Starman, which would run from 1941 through 1946. Yeah, I counted how many pages each one of those stories have. It would fit into one book. Then we have Superman villain omnibuses for Brainiac, Doomsday, and Lex Luthor, which clearly could contain lots of content. Then we have the Terrifics, a fantastic series by Lemire and Yang, which brings Tom
Great
Strong
series.
into DC continuity. Then we have The Silencer, another one of those DC's New Age Heroes series that has John Romita on art. Then one that Omar, if there's one book that people on Twitter told me the most they were looking forward to voting for, I'm going to slow it down. The Spirit by Cook, Evanier, and Plug. Literally the most tweets of, I can't wait to vote for that Spirit book. That Spirit book better be on there.
That's the 2006 series, right?
It is.
The one that predates the, yeah.
Yeah.
That was solid. Oh, and Tom Strong.
Two lines of Tom Strong, one that's more on the Alan Moore side, one that's more on the anthology issue side. Again, he's in continuity, so he's fair game. Vigilante, which might need to be two omnibuses, is pretty big, but it maybe could fit into one, so we just put one in the poll. And then Zatanna, this is another one that I'm like,
Wait, you skipped Warlord. You got to talk about
Warlord. Larry's
Mike
Library,
Grell.
Warlord. It goes on for so long, and people are like, "Is it
Such a good
continuity?" Yes, it is. And Mike Grell actually continues writing new Warlord series even in the 2000s. So this line could go on and on and on and on. And then Zatanna, I was like, "There's got to be a way to get Zatanna early stuff into an omnibus." There's so much cool stuff. Well, guess what? We counted the issues. There is enough stuff. And then there's the modern omnibus. It would not just be the Paul Dini series. There's plenty of Zatanna that happens in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Not just guest appearances, like featured arcs. I think she's briefly in Action Comics Weekly. There's plenty of stuff. We could have two Zatanna omnibuses here on our shelves if you just vote.
You good?
You should talk about this one. I don't know about this.
Okay. Take a breather. Tigereyes, why don't you join me with this one?
Sure.
So I'll let you go ahead and start talking about some of these creators.
Yeah, DC Universe by Alex Toth, starting 19.
Who's Alex Toth, by the way, for people that don't know? Why is his name on the list? Because I'm sure there are people that don't know who Alex Toth is.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know who Alex Toth is.
You don't know who Alex Toth is? Okay.
Where's Josh Greathouse? Get in here, Josh.
Yeah. He was a cartoonist that did the Space Ghost. So you may be familiar with that. So he did a lot of like animation stuff, but he did do some DC Comics. I think, who mapped that one? Was it Taylor?
Nobody would map it.
Nobody mapped it. We just have it on here to vote. Okay, Josh, go get your whole family to vote. Go ahead, Tigereyes.
DC Universe by Straczynski, Superman and Wonder Woman, 2010-2011. DC Universe by Jack Kirby, The Silver Age, Volume 1. DC Universe by Keith Giffen, Volume 1, 1977 and on. DC Universe by Paul Dini, 1992 and on. DC Universe by Steve Ditko, 1977. And then DC Universe by Tom King, 2015 and on.
Those are the Kings, like maxi series, like Mr. Miracle, which we know is getting an absolute edition, right? And it's starting with like Sheriff of Babylon. I think I would sneak that in there, even though it's Vertigo, but don't tell Crisis.
What? I'm
Nothing.
sorry. What?
Yeah, nothing.
Okay.
Nothing about that. Let's see Josh's answer. Alex Toth is a pillar of creators. Comics would not be the same without him. He has done work from EC Comics to Batman Black and White. He did character designs for Hanna-Barbera and more. Not the same without him.
So we got to offer a mea culpa on this DC anthologies. There was no way to get every DC anthology. Some people in the chat have already called out some that I know that we missed. One of the houses of the night.
Wait a minute. What's this Wii stuff? You got a mouse in your pocket?
I see. When there's a missed book, Crisis missed it. But when there's a great book, oh my God.
We did that. Okay, let's.
I have never had so much fun talking about comics than I have for the last 2 months with Tigereyes. We were like one day in the middle of the night mapping stuff. Me and Omar back and forth on Messenger, Brandon on Discord. It has been a blast. Action Comics Weekly. That was when Superman stepped away kind of from Action Comics. There's still Roger Stern and Kurt Swan issues in there, but it's only about 160 pages. Everything else, there's a Green Lantern feature in every issue, which could just be in the Green Lantern line, but then there's all these backup features: Wildcat, Black Hawk, Black Canary, Catwoman. So that would collect all of that into one book. Action Comics, this was a little fun Easter egg for us. There's all of these backup features in Action Comics in the Golden Age that are not Superman. He was only ever the lead story. And so Zatanna's father, was one of those backup stories in almost every issue. So this could collect a ton of Zatara stuff and also some other pulp heroes of the Golden Age, maybe just the ones that weren't explicitly racist. Then we have Brave and the Bold, the DC Universe team-ups by Mark Waid, and all because they've just renamed so many things Brave and the Bold in that period. Then we have Brave and the Bold, the early years from 1956 and on. Yes, some of that will be collected alternately in Superman or Batman omnibuses, but some people want it on its own. The DC Special Series omnibus, that's a kind of its own anthology book. Detective Comics before Batman, a lot of people said, where is it? Where is it? Here it is. I know DC solicited it and then canceled it. Some of us really want to see it still. Legends of the DC Universe, which was kind of like an ongoing anthology book in the late 90s. Secret Origins, which tend to be collected, kind of picked and chosen all around the place, but we could get a whole book of Secret Origins. Why not? Secrets of Sinister House, which is one of the houses I didn't miss in the 1970s. Showcase, the Silver Age Omnibus. Again, Showcase was an anthology book. It's where the Silver Age began. It launched Flash and so many other characters we've talked here, but some people would like to just have it all in one book. Strange Adventures, the Silver Age Omnibus, which collected a whole lot of different heroes and sci-fi things. Some people might just want all of it in one. Tales of the Unexpected, same thing. And The Witching Hour, which was another one of those kind of like creepy books that was an anthology. So I know we missed some. If you're a big fan of DC, especially Bronze Age DC, and you see stuff that we missed, please write it in the final question of the poll, and then we'll add it for next year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can already see a lot of things that will be added, and we'll probably expand on the that rule about Vertigo, which is a ridiculous rule to begin with. I don't know why.
That Omar made up because he's ridiculous. Yes, confirmed. So
I totally did. We were gonna drive ourselves crazy if we did. All right.
Can you imagine us trying to like figure out how to fit every creator-owned Vertigo omnibus in an omnibus?
Like, just, I mean, and who owns the rights to this stuff? Because Peter Milligan at any time could take any of his. It's a nightmare. All right. Are you still okay? You want
I mean, this is a quick one, baby. Bombshells, just Omnibus Dog loves it. Let's get it all in one book. DC versus vampires. You know, everybody loves vampire stuff. Even Marvel does this summer. This is the stuff that inspired the Marvel crossover. It's all in one book. DC versus Aliens versus Predator. We talked about where all of the places that Wildcats versus Aliens could be. I believe this is the 4th book on the poll that you can find that issue. DC's by Tom Taylor, a wildly popular alternate universe kind of zombie-esque series. All of Earth 2 from New 52. Earth 1, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman by Johns, JMS, and Morrison from 2010 to 2021. We put all of those Earth 1 books into one. Injustice 2 by Tom Taylor, which could fill an entire omnibus. Kingdom Come, the complete saga. This has a really cool map. I hope I get to finally doing the Elseworld maps on Crushing Crisis. I haven't done it yet. Somebody at Near Mint-Con, possibly Brandon, possibly Next to Maginot, mapped all of the kind of Kingdom Come follow-on books that could fit into this and expand the Kingdom Come universe way beyond that initial series. I think that'd be really cool. Super Friends, the original year's beautiful design in this book, not strictly in continuity, but kind of like teases relating to continuity, but really stands on its own. Superman Adventures Volume 1, it says Volume 1 twice, but clearly the years takes care of the difference. A Superman Elseworlds books that just starts mapping all sorts of Superman Elseworlds stories from 1993 on. Tiny Titans. And then Young Animal, which we could collect all of, including Milk War, in 2 omnibuses. Brandon did the math, as did me and some other people on the Near Mint Condition community. One thing that people have already pointed out that we missed was Justice League Unlimited. Sorry, we cannot add stuff to the poll at this point, but please write it in so that we remember to include it next year.
Thank you for being patient, everybody. Miscellaneous. So you have All American Men of War, Volume 1, 1952 and on. Arak, Son of Thunder, such a great series. 1981 to 1985. Atari Force. The hell do we have?
How did that get in there? That's not continuity.
I thought we were gonna take it out.
Omar.
No, you slid one under. All right, that's fine. We'll keep it. We're keeping it in there. Batlash, 1968 to 1982. Black Hawk, the Modern Era Omnibus from 88 to 92. And then the Silver Age Omnibus. DC Challenge Omnibus from 1985 to 2018, because it wasn't like a big ongoing thing. And DC Swords and Sorcery. So this is somebody was asking about the Hercules Unbound, that we passed up on it or we missed it. And
Larry didn't miss it.
Larry's got you covered. If it's old and obscure, it's Larry's Library. There's your new catchphrase, Larry. I'll take my 10% finder's fee. Claw, which is freaking awesome, just like Conan. Beowulf and Sword and of Sorcery. Doc Savage and Enemy Ace, the Silver Age Omnibus. Ghost, the Bronze Age Omnibus from 1971 and on. The Haunted Tank, which that was a great series that for some reason hasn't had any kind of collections outside of, I think, a showcase. I think there was one showcase of Haunted Tank. I Vampire, the New 52 Omnibus. And Losers, the GI Combat. Men of War, the complete series Omnibus. Our Army at War. Boy, there was a lot of war going on at DC Comics at that time.
And I will say Our Army at War, I mean, we could have put this in a comment, but Sergeant Rock is clearly a lot of the Our Army at War series, but there were always stories other than Sergeant Rock in it. So this would probably be non-Sergeant Rock since he has his own option on the poll.
Yeah. Sea Devils. Oh, I didn't talk about Rip Hunter, Time Master, the Silver Age Omnibus. Sea Devils. Secret Society of Supervillains. I'm so glad somebody brought that up. Was that a Larry thing, or was that somebody on the Discord?
Know where that one came from.
Shadow Pact by Willingham and Sturgis. A very
lot of people on Twitter asking me if this was going to be in the
series.
poll. A lot of people.
That's a post Infinite Crisis, but it's taking the oh my gosh, not Villains United, Day of Judgment. What was the what was that miniseries called? Shadow Pact, not Shadow. Damn it, that's the ongoing series. Anyway, the Magic series, Sugar and Spike, Volume 1. Someone was asking about that earlier. That there's no way we had it. We did. The Great Disaster featuring the Atomic Knights, baby. Yes. Who showed up later on also in JSA. The Movement and the Green Team, the New 52 Omnibus. The Unknown Soldier, the Bronze Age, Volume 1. The War That Time Forgot. I used to have a few of those comics. The Silver Age Omni. Uncle Sam and the Freedom Fighters. All the way to 2019, too. So there's enough material to go through decades. Weird War Tales, the Bronze Age Omnibus Volume 1. Young Heroes in Love. This is the 97 series. And Young Love, the Silver Age Omnibus. Uncle Sam and the Freedom Fighters. That's a hell of an omnibus. Hey, my love.
Hey, I made dinner.
You made dinner? Okay.
Sure.
Does that mean I have to go?
No,
I'm in the middle of a stream.
Yeah, no. I was seeing if you were.
You want to say hi?
Hi.
Come show your pretty face over here.
I can't.
If you want
I
to.
can't bend over.
Well, okay. Peter, this is the last slide, so I'm thinking we're ready to let people know how to vote.
I think we might be.
Okay. Say hi.
Oh my gosh. Hello. I did say hi.
All right. I'll be
I
up.
can't bend over.
Okay.
I
I love you. I love you. Okay. Maybe I should have had that on mute. Day of Vengeance miniseries. That's what it was called. Damn it. Thank you. All right, everybody. Let me remove this and get this up and going so we can show you all how to vote. It's a little different than the Marvel poll, so please keep that in mind. It's the first time we're doing it this way, but I think this might work better. Let me add the stage. Here we go. Let me remove the watermark there. So I'm going to add the link to the description of this video. So if you're watching this later, by all means, just go to the link. But this is the first annual Most Wanted DC Omnibus poll. Let us know what DC Comics you want the most. You all know the rules. But there are some guidelines. Select up to 10 books, with the first being the one you want the most, because it is tier ranking, right? Choose each book only once, please. Multiple votes for the same book will be discarded. That is very important. Please do not choose Alex Toth or whatever it was omnibus that you want 10 times. The votes will be discarded. Only one submission per person, please. That is also something very important. It's a headache for James sometimes to just decide what is spam and what isn't. Want to review the full list of titles before you vote, including a deep dive into how each one should be mapped? You go directly. There is a link here to Crushing Crisis. And who owns that website? Who is that? What is Crushing Crisis?
Some fool who spelled the word crisis wrong in the 90s, but now is legally distinct from DC's crises.
And the poll, very important, closes at noon on Wednesday, May 29th. And somebody has asked, why noon? Makes life easier for James. That's why. And if it makes life easier for James, makes it easier for Peter and I to create a slideshow of the top 60. So email, again, generic email.gmail.com is not my real email. Now, this is different than, like I mentioned, the Marvel stuff. So this is a drop down now. You're going to go through each of these. There are lots of books, but I think a drop down was the best way to do it, considering just how many titles there are. And you have your first choice, so you're not going to miss it. You don't have to bubble it in. And in case you accidentally, make like two choices your first choice. Yeah, it is a huge drop down. So keep that in mind. So if you're looking for Wonder Woman, it's all the way at the bottom. So keep scrolling. Make sure you don't miss it. You have 10 choices. I'm thinking this is going to be easier than the Marvel stuff because I hate it going back to the top if I accidentally voted for the same book in the same slot twice. But this is now a drop down. I hope it makes it easier for everybody. Let us know, though. And then what the hell is this? Yes, this is something James is asking. So, yeah, I don't get this reference. Does anybody? Tigereyes, do you get this reference?
Nope.
James told us to practice our Latin, Omar.
He did, but much like everybody else that talks to me, I don't listen that well. What is your name on YouTube? You do have to fill that in. You don't have to be honest. You can just call it whatever, It does help, though. It makes it easier. And then this is the other most important thing. Did we miss your favorite book? Like if you want it like Jose Luis Garcia Lopez or Where's Vertigo? You can write it there. And I mean the very most important thing in this whole page is that submit button. You'll get an error if you're like, I can't remember what causes the error if you did not fill one of these important things out. But submit, please. Okay. Now let me stop sharing and let me refresh. Okay. And all right, everybody refresh this video that you are watching right now. Let's kick it off. We're kicking it off live, baby.
Yeah, baby.
We are kicking it off live. So there you go. Who watches The Watchmen in Latin? Oh, look at that. Mega Shrimps are coming in. Well, okay. Thank you for that, buddy. Look at James already on James, my dude. Yes, there's the link right there. Refresh the video or just click on the link that James is sending you to. If you're watching this later, please look at the description of the video and that will have the link. It will also have the rule, I almost called it the law, of when to vote by. That's also very important. Spread the word, please. The more people vote, the more people we get doing this, who knows? Maybe there might be a better chance of DC actually listening to us. All right, now that the poll is live, I need to sleep for my day job. But this was
Brandon, you are amazing. I cannot wait
Brandon.
to do a stream with you sometime soon.
Yeah, we'll have to get him into one of those mapping streams. Maybe he knows X-Men just as much as he does DC, and we can start mapping my X. But everybody go and have fun. Vote responsibly. I mean, this is it. This and the Marvel thing were so fun to put together. And I can't stress how much work went into this, especially for somebody like Peter, like that was not just, putting it out, putting the years there, but also just mapping it out on his own sites. And go check out Crushing Crisis. It's amazing. Spread the word, not just to your family, but your friends, your loved ones, whomever, Reddit, forums, social media, and we will send reminders a couple of times in between now and the time that it closes. And again, I will give the list to DC Comics. Whatever they decide to do with the top 60 is up to them. I may be like Marvel and just send the top 60 because David Gabriel was so excited about that list that he was like, yeah, send me the top 60 instead of top 20. So that was really cool. Gives them more options to choose from. And I'll probably do the same thing here. So it is very important that you all vote. And this will make it so much easier to do next year, Peter. Now that we
done. Let me just speak from the heart for a second here. I mean, Tigereyes was so many people do so many little polls and things on forums, right? So many like answer this question, vote for your best. Tigereyes started that, and he kept it up for over a decade. through the change and the shift in conversation about comics from forums to social media to closed communities like Discord, from the shift in Marvel's omnibuses publishing strategy to have so many more omnibuses to the point that they're printing almost the whole top 20 from lists every year. And he kept doing it. And people who do that kind of thing in our comics community are what allow us to get excited and have these fun conversations that are about the things we love, like comic books, creators, mapping, data, how to get things on our shelf. Like, he was there in the trenches doing the market mapping with us. And this wouldn't exist if he had not done the Marvel poll for 12 years. Okay, y'all. And he's come out of anonymity. I just thought he looked like Tony the Tiger from the Frosted Flakes box all this time, but actually he's a real person. So I have to say that. And the other thing is, Omar, y'all don't fully appreciate, even if you watch every Omar stream, how much work Omar does to make comics excellent for everybody as much as he possibly can. The amount of like care and affection he has for creators, for fans, for people in his streams, for people in his community, for people in other communities that don't even like him, but he still cares about them. Like, oh, this is the real deal. Omar doesn't just pretend to be nice for show. Omar is that quality of person, and the chance to do a project like this that's all about loving comics. Like, look at how many books we got excited about. We're excited about 600 books that you didn't know existed, books that you forgot existed, books that you didn't know had enough material to exist. And that's because Omar spends his whole day, every day, working on Near Mint Condition. You have no idea how many times that I was like, I'm up late, what are you doing? As we're working on this, he's like, editing, because that's what Omar does. So sorry to get sappy, y'all, but I'm like more intertwined with the Near Mint Condition community than I've ever been over the past month or two. And it's a great place to be. So thank you for watching. Thank you for giving me a place to talk about this stuff. Thank you for loving comic books and reminding me how much I do love DC, despite all of my jokes, because now I have 600 more books I need to read.
Thank you, Peter. Wow, you're going to make a brown guy blush. It's kind of hard to do, man. No, I do want to stress again how, doing things like this is so much more fun when people are involved, and you make it so much fun with all your energy you have. I don't know when you sleep. I hope you do get sleep. And then, we have Tigereyes that created all this, and I can't imagine doing this by yourself. And I remember at one point, whenever we were doing the Marvel one, like, I was stressing because it was like Friday night at like 1 o'clock, and I'm like, we got to do a video. I gotta get up early to do the Saturday live stream, but we still need to have all these things together for the show on Sunday. And I was like, how in the hell did Tigereyes do this by himself? And in the way he was doing it was through email instead of just like, a drop down like we're doing this year, or choosing the 10 that you want to vote for. I don't know how the hell you did it for so long. It must have drove you nuts, man.
A lot smaller back then.
It was a lot. Okay, but still,
he had hundreds of crazy comics fans emailing him directly.
Yeah, that stuff had to be nuts, because some of the suggestions were nuts. The ones that we were getting, they just didn't make any sense. You had to filter through that nonsense, and then you're like, oh, this actually makes sense. Yeah, it's crazy. But I'm just glad we came across each other in life. It's been wonderful, and really, I've told people in the past, like, it really does make this so much more fun when there's a lot more people involved. And we're not done with DC. We actually have a stream. I forgot to even mention that at the beginning, at 6:30 on Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. It is our Batman Omnibus Evergreen list. It's Omnidog. It's me. It's Jake from the Brave and the Boys. It's Maddie's going to join us. I think Oddfell's going to try to be there, and Lars is going to be there, and a couple of other people I invited. But yeah, it should be awesome. It should be. Yes, was your inbox crying for help? I always wondered if you had reached the limit. We have reached the 3-hour mark, I believe. Is that what somebody's saying? Thank you all. Yeah, so the Evergreen stream is back. We took a break from it to focus on these things because we wanted to give everybody the best experience possible and making it easier for you all to vote. Because if you're frustrated because something isn't working, then that doesn't make it fun. So we went through all of it, and just to make it fun for you all to do it, to make it easier too. Is there anything else? Let me double check something really quick before we go. I'm curious, with so many people blowing up the okay, there are responses coming in. Good. That's what I was checking. I wasn't getting any responses earlier, but it looks like there are responses coming in, and I see people's emails, and I see people's names, and then it's get the spinny thing because everybody's on the website at the same time. But that's great. They're coming in. Good. That's what I wanted to check on.
I want to challenge that real quick.
What's that?
I said I want to challenge the community real quick. We had
Yeah,
1,600 votes for the Marvel poll. I think it was.
It was like, yeah,
Yes,
a little over
yes,
1600.
sir.
I would love first time rounds to break that, even though I'm a Marvel guy. So let's see if the DC guys can break that 1,600.
You think first annual? You think we can break
Let's drop
1,600?
down. Let's try. The drop down bars making it easier. The polling's going to make it easier. Talk it up.
Okay. I think we can do it. 1,600
Gotta spread the word, folks.
Spread
Yep.
the word. Spread it on social media. Spread it on Reddit. Remind people. It's so easy to vote. We make it so easy. And in case people don't know the mapping, there's a link, a hyperlink they just click on to go to Crushing Crisis. Then that will tell you exactly how everything is mapped. I have to go eat. My wife just reminded me. I just want to thank everybody for watching. Super fun. Long stream, but I love doing these. Thank you so much. Hit that like button on the way out. Check out Walt's Comic Shop. They're based out of Berlin, Germany, and they are a sponsor from the EU. And now things are not responding on my computer because I think I broke it. I think the poll broke it. There's a problem with this file. Please reload. Okay.
Oh no.
Maybe we'll let James handle that. Just could be on my end though. Could be on my end. Okay. Now I can end it. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody, stay healthy and safe. Hope you were able to learn one or two things about DC Comics today. Much love.